It's Christine and her sidekick, me. It's Christine and all the invisible spirits in her room from her pictures. Hey, it's Christine and a dried up little lemon. It's Christine and her baby who, if you rearrange the letters in her name, spells Halloween. Hey.
Okay, thank God. We finally finished our rehearsal for the live show. Thank you, Em. We can
was that
it? Now. Yeah. So, if you're, oh, shoot, we're recording already? Well, I guess you all got a sneak peek into our live show, our live tour.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Can you imagine if my whole job on tour is to just come out and sing that and then I walk off and it's all you? Actually, that sounds pretty great.
I was going to say, that's like your dream. Wow. Okay. That was beautiful, Em. And I feel like everyone really appreciated it. So
yeah, well, I think you of all people probably appreciated it, but every now and then you need someone to just butter you up. So in case you haven't been buttered recently, my little roll,
that's so nice.
I just want to let you know that you're on my mind at least in 4 bars or whatever the music phrase is.
The kindest thing anyone has ever said to me. Speaking of butter, why don't I eat some snacks? Just kidding. Apparently I keep eating during the episode. I'm sorry, everyone. Poor Eva had to bring it to our attention then and was like, and I was like, oh, I know that's me. I'm sorry. I sometimes eat a piece of candy and I just assume I'm going to be muted. But like, I guess why would I be muted? I don't know. I don't know where in my head I decided it was okay to eat candy while we record, like 7 years into the podcast. So I apologize. I won't be doing that anymore.
Until all of a sudden I'll know you're not listening to me anymore when you start aimlessly just fidgeting with like a candy wrapper, which is even worse to me.
Something I have like such like I feel like I always, as you know, Em has witnessed something that like rarely people have witnessed. It's like when I do notes or when I'm like reading something on the computer. God. I have like this like clicking compulsion.
Like you've had to go to therapy for it, I think, or talked about it in therapy.
It's like it's part of my OCD, and it's like so unbearable for other people. I don't notice it. Like I don't see it anymore. But Emma's like, "What are you doing? Highlighting everything over and over and over." Again.
I know with certainty every single bullet that you're reading. You're highlighting frantically every time.
It's terrible if you're ever wondering, Google Doc, because I realize other people can see that I'm like just clicking. Like it looks like I have a computer glitch going on.
There have been times where I've been in a Google Doc with Christine, and I can't even work on my own shit because things are just becoming pink and then not, and then pink and then not, and then pink and then not. And I'm like,
at least it's pink. That's cute.
It's just one of your quirks, but
I'm so quirky that sometimes people get mad about it, and I do apologize. And not you, I'm talking about the candy, and I do apologize because I know that's very annoying, and I know that that would drive me crazy also. So I apologize. I apologize to Eva. I apologize to Jack, our editor, and I think most of all, I apologize to the Lord our Savior.
Oh fuck! I was like, where are we going here?
I don't know. I've had a lot of coffee today.
What was your coffee order today? Your flavor?
It was made in a coffee pot at my house, so it was my home flavor.
But what type of, I don't know what it's called, but like what type of, was it just black coffee, or was it like does it have a name?
Oh, I see. It's just a mug of coffee, and then I put some of my pumpkin spice creamer in it. So I feel like a little,
feeling silly.
Today. I'm feeling a little naughty.
I was going to say, as Renee says, a little being so naughty.
Naughty. Put a little spice, some coffee creamer. That's my like thing. I used to go through phases where like every few months I would suddenly abruptly change the way I drank coffee. And it was poor Blaze would like bring me up a cup of coffee with cream in it. And I'd be like, I only drink black coffee. And he's like, literally, you decided that yesterday. I'm like, I know.
You also do that to me, Christine. You do that whenever I have to order you something, or like we're all trying to figure out like group dinner, and I'm like, oh well, Christine doesn't eat this, and you're like, what are you talking about? And you say
that's my favorite food.
You literally say it like a mean girl. You're like, are you an idiot? Like, I only eat that. And I was like, what the fuck? I just spent the last year making a note in my head to not ever feed you that. You do it all the time.
I love to be full of surprises. And so,
every time I ever like suggest food to you, it is always, I never finish breathing because I'm like, I'm ready for you to tell me it's the opposite, you know?
I mean, usually I eat everything. Like when in doubt, most things I will eat. But coffee creamer in my coffee has been, I used to put just milk, like a splash of milk. Then I was like, Blaze, this isn't enough milk. And then I was like, I only drink oat milk in my coffee. Then I was like, I can't stand oat milk in my coffee. Then I drink black. Anyway, now like a little dash of like a flavored creamer and I'm on it. This has been the pattern for like over a year and a half. So I'm thinking it'll stick, but we'll see.
Well, I
is this what people complain about on Reddit when they're like, they just blab on about useless shit no one cares about.
Well, where's that person who used to put the time code when we start talking about important stuff, you know?
Yeah, so, where are you?
Rely on them. My turn. So speaking of speaking of coffee, with my tea, I've been I at the beginning of the year, or Eva would know. Eva, when did we start doing supper club? Just write in, please.
What the hell is that?
We have supper club every Tuesday night.
What's that? That sounds fun.
It's called Queer Supper Club. It's where all of our queer friends get together and eat supper together as a club.
Oh, fun.
I know so your
cute.
FOMO is
texting you.
At a peak high.
No, I'm going to start texting you Tuesday. I don't like to leave the house. Wait,
bullshit.
What did
this
you
is
say
another one of your things where you're doing the...
What did you say? I know. I'm trying to say the opposite. Just to
hello, we all know you're the queen of FOMO. With love. You're the queen of FOMO. Yeah. You would totally...
If
you were in... I think because of the distance, you're fine with it. But if you were in LA, absolutely not. You would get yourself in your little leather jacket that I know you love so much and your ripped black jeans. You would look hot as shit. You'd put your eyeliner on and you'd be like, I'm going to Queer Supper Club every Tuesday.
I'm queer now. Blaze, get out of my face.
Yeah, on Tuesdays only. Blaze, no more.
Blaze, you're out of the picture. And put that black coffee down. I don't want anything to do with it.
I think black coffee makes you only queerer. No, like in a tough way, like a motorcycle gang way.
I feel like the way that I drink coffee nowadays is like such a mom way. You know, like I feel like it's like a mom thing. I don't know. I just need like that sugar hit in the morning. I will say I've gotten a lot better about my FOMO. Like it used to be bad because I just felt like, I don't know. I just was like, oh no. I just felt, I don't know. I mean, yeah,
unloved.
I just had FOMO, but at this point,
feel unloved?
I'm kind of over it. I think COVID really did a number on me in that way where I'm like, honestly, like, I don't really need to go do stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's the Zoloft. That really has helped with a lot of my issues also.
All right.
So,
well, yeah. First of all, let's make it clear, just in case FOMO decides to appear in the middle of the night, that obviously if you were here or when you're here, you're always welcome.
But I don't assume that. I mean, it would be hilarious if you were like, actively, we don't tell you about it. I mean, I don't assume that that's the case, but if it was, that would be quite a turn of events.
Well, so I only bring it up because I've been trying I feel like it's been the last year, but maybe it hasn't been that long. Maybe it's been longer. I have no concept of time anymore. That I was going through this thing. I've talked about it to enough of my friends that I feel like I can just say it out loud and hopefully nobody's feelings are hurt. I've been going through what I've been calling a Frenaissance, where I've been
that's right.
breaking up with some people to make room for other people. And I'm just reevaluating my relationships. And I was like, I really want to have more friends that I'm closer with, because I feel like I had a lot of friends that I saw once a month and I want friends that I see often. So I've been creating more standing appointments with friends, which is like the adult way of hanging out with people all the time, I guess. So example is on Tuesdays, I have Queer Supper Club.
I love that.
And on Thursdays, this is where we were talking about coffee. This is the segue. On Thursdays, I have a standing tea time with my friend Delaney. And she has by the way, shout out. She has the podcast Self-Helpless. That's how we met. If we're on it, if you want to start there.
Hey, I didn't know that. Say hi for me. Didn't know you guys are friends. That's a fun show. I really like that
she's
show.
One of my closer friends these days.
Now I'm like, now I FOMO because I feel like, man, you're just not like letting me into your life anymore. I feel like I don't know you at all. I'm
changed.
Club? You're friends with. I mean, wow.
No, I just
you're like a baby bird that I'm like shoving out of the nest.
Well, yeah. I told Delaney, I was like, Christine's out. If you want a chance, you can audition now.
Yeah,
so
that's fine. I mean, I get it.
We lost touch for a while, and we recently got back in touch, and then we immediately started doing our standing appointment.
I love. Wait, where do you go for tea? I'm just
I
curious.
go to her house. She makes us tea, which is lovely.
Cool.
And we do an oracle reading every time I'm there.
What?
So, yeah.
Now I have FOMO.
So now
it's back, baby.
Tea and tarot.
Tea and tarot? Oh, come on. This is amazing.
And so I go every Thursday, and
That's
you
so
talking
cute.
about your milk and how your flavors change. And I keep trying so hard. I love her, but she's also like through and through vegan, and all of her, she won't have real milk in her house, which is totally fine. Yeah. But I'm trying so hard to get through it, but she'll make this tea that's amazing, and then she'll put she knows I like milk in it, so she'll try to put milk in it, but it's never real milk, and I can always taste the difference. And one time she put milk in there that was gray, and I was like, what? And then apparently that's
milk, baby.
I think that's what it was, but I watched it happen, and I was like, this is like watching how the sausage is made. It's like, it's just, I mean,
except
ironically, like real milk, the way that it's made is so much
if you watched it be made,
worse.
It would be a bunch of oats and not like a dead animal.
Yeah, but it was like, I just watched someone pour a bunch of like Disney gray sludge into my drink, and I was like, ugh. And so, anyway,
that's
what
weird.
A long tangent.
It looks like your calendar just freed up every Thursday. I mean, I wonder what happened. I wonder if you just...
Oh, shit, my phone, actually, the microphone was on the whole time. My phone's going, calling Delaney. No.
You didn't realize you had a standing call every Tuesday at 2:30.
Anyway, that was a really long-winded way of me telling you the fact that you're always changing your order. And you went from milk to almond milk.
But to be fair, you do that too. Like, I will come and you'll be like, thank you. And then I'll find out like you haven't had that drink in 6 months and you'll never drink it again. And I'm like,
but one thing that I really like about you is that you at least remember something I like, because it's not like I drink something and then I can never have it again. Like, I just drink it and then I switch it up, but then I end up going back. I always flip-flop. So sometimes you've given me something that I stopped drinking for a while, but it reignited the love, and I went back to
I'll do that.
So
I'm like that grandma who's like Blaze's grandma. Like, oh, one time you said you liked Rolos, so your entire identity will now consist of getting Rolos for every holiday. That's what I'm gonna be.
Can you say that about $1 million and see what happens? Or
yeah, sure. I'll go to the Dollar Tree and see what I can find.
A million times.
Yeah, I'll get back to you. Oh,
well, anyway, Christine, I know we just did this whole. I don't know, us talking. You know what? Yeah, I don't even feel bad about it.
Talking shit about me, by the way. This is like day after Christine's half birthday. Let's talk about all her many problems.
Happy belated half birthday, Christine.
Thank you.
Did you celebrate today with a big cup of mom coffee?
I sure did, and Leona has double pink eye, so life is like.
When is your baby gonna be healthy? Like, what's the?
Never. This is apparently what life
status?
is. Everyone is like, "Duh, this is what life is," and I was like, "Oh." Gotcha.
So wait, do you also like? I would assume I was just raised by such an overprotective like Jewish mom. Like, so you're gonna get pink eye, right? That's what that means.
I mean, I assume so. I'm shocked I haven't gotten it yet. It's been a couple days. I'm washing my hands constantly, which I kind of
washing your eyes constantly because like
no, I'm not touching my damn eyes because I know what's gonna happen if I do. But I am very actively washing my hands, and as someone with, as I mentioned already, as we both have mentioned already, have pretty intense OCD sometimes. So, it's pretty easy for me to get into a mind space of like, hey, this is the way that you'll fix everything. Wash your hands constantly. So that's what I'm doing. And it's good. My brain picked it up easily,
Oh, good.
So yeah, we're on that grind, and it's just nice to be here with you and have somewhere to really compartmentalize.
Where everybody knows
life
your name.
With you.
Yeah, that's nice, Christine.
I'm
glad you're here too.
Thanks.
Now let's sit in that until it gets awkward for all of us. Never mind, I couldn't do it.
Let's see which one of us can't stand it. It's both.
I'll always lose that game. Okay, so is that why you drink this week, or do you have another reason?
Yeah, listen, everything's fucking crazy. I feel like you and I are both in a crazy headspace with work stuff. We're like overwhelmed. The holidays are coming up. Everyone's overwhelmed. I did a bunch of like Secret Santa gifting, like. There's this great thing called Operation Santa on USPS where you can adopt kids and families and adopt them, obviously, like in quotes.
And then mail them to you. No.
Yeah, mail yourself to their house to say hi. No, and then you go to the post office and like they write little letters to Santa. They get scanned in, obviously with no identifying information. You can, buy as little or as much as you want. You can, send surprises, and then you go to the post office. They scan the QR code and mail it for you. So obviously you can't see the address and all that. But I was like, I know, I'll adopt like 16 different people. And so I've been just like, why did I do this on the day where why on this, my day after my half birthday of all days,
Mm-hmm. 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 I understand.
So.
I can't believe that Santa would do that to you.
I can't believe I did it to myself. But yeah, so here we are. Anyway, otherwise, I'm fine. Everything's okay. It's fine. We'll be fine, and it's fine. How are you?
It's fine. It's fine. As I'm white knuckling in a room of flames, it's fine.
Correct. That's exact. You get it.
Okay. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling. I don't know. I'm like.
Well, that's nice. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
I have like. I feel like I'm really stressed for extended periods of time, and then I get a 5-minute sliver of happiness until I'm stressed for a really extended period of time again. And
Yeah.
right now I'm in the 5-minute sliver, which is nice. And I feel like I've just been between Christmas just to like throw all my fucking business out at everybody. I'm leaving like halfway through December. I'm going home, and then like as soon as the holidays are done, Christine and I are rehearsing to go back out on tour, and then I'm back out on tour. So I'm about to be gone for like at least a month, and so I'm stressed about that and getting presents over there and the whole logistical kerfuffle of Christmas. On top of that, I got so many projects here I want to get done, but I need to get them done in like 2 weeks, or else they're not going to be done for a month and 2 weeks. And so anyway, right now I'm having like a one little moment of happiness. I treated myself to some new Pokemon cards.
Aww.
Okay, so I posted this on Thanksgiving. My DMs are going bananas, folks. So
Tell me.
everybody's asking. If you don't follow me on Instagram, this is not your moment. But for everybody who follows me on Instagram and has been craving this like snack that I told everybody about on Instagram, Christine.
Clearly, I don't follow you on Instagram. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Lean in. Let me come here. I want to tell you something.
I'm just going to lean back because you're making me nervous.
Is my breath a little too? Is it on you? Can you feel it?
No comment.
Here's the thing. I went to my aunts for Thanksgiving. They had this. They had me try these peppers from Trader Joe's. I lost my mind. I mixed them up with some salami and some mozzarella. It changed my world. Allison and I can't stop eating them. I posted it on Instagram, and the people who got to see that post, I got a bunch of people sending me videos of them trying it and saying that it changed their life. So, for the people who are wondering what the hell this snack is, because every time I post it, someone misses it, you get yourself a Ritz cracker. Ready, Christine? Ritz cracker. Write it down. Eva?
That's Leona's favorite. That's Leona's favorite food. We buy them in massive quantities. So
great. So you're already set. Then
I've got a lot.
2 slices of dry salami. Little salami. 2 slices.
Can't eat that, but okay, sure.
Can you eat that? I don't know anymore.
No, I can't.
Might be.
I don't eat meat. Oh, right. Tomorrow I'll be like, that's my favorite food.
Exactly. So when you're in the mood for that, you pick up 2 slices of salami, put that on a Ritz cracker.
Great.
Get yourself a little mozzarella pearl, the little balls, the ones in the
those.
container with the juice. Get the little ball.
Yep.
Okay. Then go to Trader Joe's. You get yourself the picante sweet peppers. They're red.
Picante
They're full of cream cheese.
Oh yeah, those are good.
Maybe if you're feeling especially naughty, do a little balsamic drizzle.
Oh my.
Balsamic drizzle. A glaze, not the vinegar glaze.
Mm-mm.
Commit to the bit because it's going to be a big ass bite, but you throw all that in your mouth at once.
Oh, that sounds so good.
You'll be in heaven. The end.
I'm hungry now, and I'm.
Well, don't eat.
Anyway,
you can't eat until we're done because people are going to hear you eat that pepper.
This is your fucking fault. I'm going to yell at you now. Why is this my fault?
You can yell at me. That's okay. That's what the whole point of this podcast was, to be a sounding board for our lives. So rip me up.
I'm too tired and hungry.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's why I drink, because everyone needed to know about the snack.
A good snack.
Now you know it.
Great. Cool.
The one day a year when you're like
feeling...
really into salami, you're going to fucking text me and go, that was incredible. So
I believe you. It sounds incredible. I I just don't have time to go to Trader Joe's. And I just went the other day. But maybe I'll go soon.
Okay, and maybe you'll also like eat salami again. I don't know.
Probably not. But the rest of it, probably I'll try. So
Okay.
thank you.
Now that we've killed 20 minutes, what do you say we start a podcast?
We killed it in the worst way. Like it's just
It wasn't even fun for anybody. It was fun for me.
No, good. Well, congratulations. Now I'm feeling really bitchy. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, do we need to sit with it for a second? You want to talk about your feelings?
Not even a little bit. But thanks for
Oh.
asking. Just kidding. That one was
Wow.
on purpose. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm all done. I'm ready for your story. And honestly, actually, you know what I just realized? So
Tell
I'm
me.
sometimes so good at compartmentalizing that I forget about the other things that are causing I'm like really good at compartmentalizing, but then there's always this like underlying like emotional dysregulation that happens where I'm like, I'm upset about something. That's
Yeah.
weird. And then I'm like,
Is it me?
oh, right. No. I'm like,
okay.
oh, right. I compartmentalize that. You'll find out when I do my story today why I'm like so out. I think that might be part of the problem.
Are we
I'm
mad at
doing
the
some,
system
like,
again?
It's just like one of those like it's just you'll see. You'll know when I tell you.
I feel like, remember in the show Pinky and the Brain when they were like, what are we doing tonight, Brain? Same thing we do every night, Pinky. We take over the
Yeah.
world. I feel like every episode I'm like, are we mad at the system again? Let's get into it.
Yeah, well, too bad because it's not going to change. Yeah, I know. It's just I think it just occurred to me why I might be especially like on edge today.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Should we breathe? How about we do that? Let's everyone listening too. Maybe we all need to take a deep breath. So we'll do 3 breaths.
Oh, you know what? Actually, probably I do need to breathe. Okay.
Okay. Everyone get ready for your 3 breaths of the day. Okay. Go.
Now people are going to be like, stop breathing into the microphone.
And then a last one. Now drink some water, you dirty little rats.
Let's crack into it.
It looks like we finally found our opener. Okay. Welcome to And That's Why We Drink, where we are all relaxed and not thirsty, but we are thirsty for the ghost stories. So here we go. This is Mary King's Close.
You put your hands up like I was going to start screaming or something. I'm just like staring at you, and all of a sudden you like throw your hands in the air. Like,
I never know what's going to get a reaction,
like,
so I just
scared
kind of
me.
paused for the dramatics, but whatever. Okay.
I mean, no, don't get me wrong. It was extremely dramatic. I just didn't understand my part in the whole process, but I get it now. So, okay, great. Wow, cool. I've never heard of it.
Okay. So this is in Edinburgh, and I said that right, yes?
You sure did?
Last time, it might as well have been a laugh track and an angry mob all at the same time because I
Oh,
was
excellent.
a stupid American. So anyway, this is in Edinburgh, and just getting straight into it, the land that we're talking about in Edinburgh, it was, as of the 12th century, it belonged to Scotland. It became a bustling city after the 12th century and then officially became the capital of Scotland in 1452. So far, we're on a good track, I think.
Cool.
Okay. It was a big part of the European Enlightenment era, but things weren't going that great eventually because as of 1560, a wall... Did you know this? I feel like this is probably one of those things that everybody on Earth knew, and I'm the last person to figure it out. In 1560, a 24-foot tall wall was built around the city.
Yeah, didn't you cover the wall? Am I crazy?
If
That
I
would be
did,
wild.
this just goes to show you how quickly things can fall right out of my head.
I'm sure I've heard about it on a paranormal podcast too, but I thought there was like hauntings underneath the walls. I don't know. I could be wrong.
That's what we're talking about today.
Oh, okay.
I haven't covered this before.
You covered the Edinburgh vaults, is what you covered.
Okay,
And
that's
I
not
think
this.
in that episode you talked about the walls. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. wall around the city.
I was like, please, I checked. I did not cover this. Okay.
How gaslighting is that, though? I'm like, you taught me about this. You don't know about it, but somehow
it was like
you taught
complimenting me for my like wisdom, but also like so like reminding me that I'm an idiot at the same time.
No, yeah, I know about the wall. You know, I don't know much about it, but I do know that it has a medieval wall around it or something around
Okay,
it.
I had no idea about this, and I feel like people who grew up in countries with better education systems are rolling their eyes. But you know, if you want to feel bad for me, and again, I chose to be mad at the system
And
today,
I
so
do.
here we go.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so in 1560, there was a 24-foot tall wall called the Flodden Wall that was built around the city to protect Edinburgh against English invasion. And since the town now could not literally grow any further than the confines of this wall, since it couldn't expand outward, they expanded upward. So it's a city that essentially grew on top of itself.
Right.
This resulted in several story tall buildings all cramped next to each other. And a lot of the streets, because of that, a lot of the streets between the buildings are incredibly narrow because construction was trying to use up as much space as possible.
They were like, just one more inch will be fine.
Right. So
just walk sideways. It's fine.
Well, I looked up pictures online of like how narrow these streets are, and probably not everybody, but maybe like larger people would need to walk sideways. Some of them are very, very narrow. Some of them seemed like they were normal street size. I think they vary, but the smaller ones I saw were like 2 tile slabs long. Like they were like, you couldn't ride a bike down it. It looked like.
Imagine having a window right there and you just like open the blinds and there's like another person.
But imagine you fall in love.
This is the duality of man. This is the duality of Gemini. Or like, imagine the horror of seeing someone, but imagine if you fell in love. Okay.
But like, it would be like Taylor Swift's "You Belong with Me" music video. Like, what's wrong? Like a note through the window.
Except you can just whisper and they'll probably hear you. So.
And like the response to "what's wrong" is that I'm so fucking close to your room.
I'm like, stop, that you won't stop talking to me. Okay, leave me alone.
You keep putting fucking notes on the window and I feel obligated to answer. So, it looked like the streets kind of varied in size, but all of them were narrow in their own way. Some of them were incredibly narrow. Some were still like, if there was like walking traffic, it would pile up pretty quick.
Okay.
And as new buildings were constructed, these alleys became even more winding and confusing because now there were new things put in front of each of the streets. So it eventually became like this maze where you had to, it feels like, in my mind, as someone who's never been there, it sounds like you would almost want like an expert guide with you walking down these streets.
Yeah, like an escort. I feel like I mean, I'm lost just thinking about it, but I mean, that's me. But I'm sure a normal person could probably do it better.
Maybe it's not as bad as I'm imagining, but I have already spiraled and decided that it's a lot trickier than maybe it is. But like just the pictures alone did make it seem at the very least incredibly claustrophobic. Like it's incredibly tall buildings. You really can't see anything other than like what's ahead of you. They're very tiny spaces. Like in a horror movie, this would be exactly the alley you don't want to be having to run down or like get caught in a flood or something, you know, like you're fucking trapped in there.
Excellent.
And because of the town's limited space, because remember, it was just a 24-foot wall and it's just built around the city. If you were middle class, upper class, anything like that, it didn't really matter what you were. You all lived pretty much on top of each other,
Right.
which was unheard of at the time because usually the wealthy class wanted to separate themselves from poor people.
Ew.
There was one example of a countess who actually lived only one floor above a fishmonger, which I feel like that's
God forbid.
I feel like that's how Trey's Songz friends describe me. It's like the countess lives above a fishmonger, you know?
But imagine if they fell in love.
But imagine if I just wrote one extra note about how concerned I am.
Just imagine how romantic, the fishmonger and the countess. That sounds like children's fairy tale.
It sounds like the first draft of Shrek, like like a fishmonger and the countess.
It sounds like
Um,
the random creepy German fairy tale that Shrek was based on that they had to like make child friendly for everyone
yeah,
else.
some certainly sounds like a Grimm Brothers situation.
Yes, it does.
Brothers Grimm. Um, so anyway, usually the wealthy would be separate from the middle class and lower class, but that wasn't the case right away. Eventually, they ended up actually saying like, we can't tolerate these plebes, so we're gonna make our own town, and we're gonna call it Newtown. Go figure, original.
Oh my
Um,
god, at least come up with something creative. That kills me.
like all the money in the world, you can't pay like a writer to give you
Like
an
none of
idea
you
about a
have
different name.
like a little spark of creativity. Okay,
Nope.
fine.
So anyway, while they're still living in Old Town, um, the wealthy tried to separate themselves the best they could, but they really didn't have many options. So eventually they tried to make gated neighborhoods, but the neighborhoods are all on top of each other and right next to each other. So the gates were, they essentially put doors on some of these alleys and closed off access to them at night. So only the wealthy
So
could use
fucked
them.
up. They're
So
like,
not only
it's like a modern security gate at a cul-de-sac, but
it's
just
literally
a
just
big
like a
door.
like a wooden door with a latch, and they said, "I have the key." Yeah, it
They
was,
just decided. Cool. Great.
and so they pretty much closed off these narrow streets. Which, let me remind you again, these are really limited, like pathways to get through. Like, so you're blocking off like access to people's homes. I imagine, like you're making it difficult at least.
Right.
So these gated narrow streets ended up being called closes. So when it's Mary King's Close, that's what a close is.
Oh, I see. Okay. Got you.
Because I never knew. I literally thought this whole time it was like going to be a closet or something.
You're like, oh, looks like Saoirse spelled closet
Yeah, I
wrong
was like,
again.
wow, didn't know Saoirse was such a dummy forgetting to put a T.
Closet.
Well, I've never known what a close was. I've never heard of that. So
I really didn't either, to be honest. So
it's one of those words where you hear it and you can kind of smile and nod through it, but you really,
yeah, I feel like
it's
I know.
never
I
in
feel
my
like if someone said, "Oh,
vernacular.
a close," I'd be like, "Yeah," and then they'd be like, "Describe it," and I'd be like, "Hey, what's that over there?"
I'd be like, honestly, that's a fucking rude question. Like,
Yeah, like why don't you explain it, smartass?
exactly. Yeah, I had no idea. I always thought like a close in my mind truly was like a hill or something. Like, I didn't know. So anyway,
And then I would have said, "No, you explain it." You would have said a hill, and I would have said, "Yep, that's what it is, a hill." And then we would have just believed that for the rest of our fucking lives. So it feels like
excuse me.
feels a little bit.
I feel
messed up,
like
but
you could ask. What you should have said is like the pun version. You should have gone, "You're close."
you're close.
You're
Does
close.
that count? No. Okay.
So anyway, man, you really got me good there. So these gated narrow streets are called closes, and into these closes, which like it's so wild to think of like that this is what the upper class was doing, and they thought they were so much fucking higher and mightier than everybody else. They would dump their chamber pots from their windows into the closes at night.
What a fucker. I knew they would do something like this. This is I mean, imagine the countess's shit just falling on your head when you're coming home from a long day of mongering fish.
It's like
This is
I'm already a fishmonger, and now I'm the poopmonger, So.
right. Like thanks a lot, God, I was going to fall in love with you too, countess.
I was this close until
this close.
you showed me too much too soon, I think. So
Yeah, we got too much.
So obviously, one of the first problems that people noticed, as all the wealthy people, and I probably honestly all the people, because if the rich didn't have toilets, I don't think anyone else had toilets either. I think everyone was just throwing their chamber pots into the streets at night. And the streets didn't have drains. They didn't have any street cleaning. There was no sanitation like laws back then, or like a service that could come out.
It's horrible.
So there was waste upon waste upon waste. And keep in mind, this is a whole town within like a literal confined area. So very quickly it adds up,
Ooh, there's like nowhere for it to go.
Think of everyone in a 10-story apartment building throwing their poop out the window. That's day one. It's a mess. Day one, let alone no one's ever coming to clean it.
Yeah. And it just keeps happening. Yeah, that's just terrible.
So the waste over time, and I'm assuming very quickly, began to clog the pathways. So
Oh,
now what? Like, you thought you were
now
fancy
what?
with your little gated door, and now you got to walk through poop. So good luck.
Good luck.
At the same time, we talked about this in the past, but in this area, the cemetery had become overcrowded. And when it became overcrowded, they started burying the bodies even shallower on top of the bodies that are buried deeper. And so
Okay.
there were shallow bodies and shallow graves in an overcrowded cemetery. And the smell, because they weren't buried far enough, would start to waft out of the graveyard.
Oh,
And on windy days where a whole town made out of alleys that are just like wind, like, you know what I mean? Like they're just
yeah. They're
I
like
don't know what
wind
the right word
tunnels.
is. Wind tunnels, yes. So now you've got the cemetery with like the smell of corpses just blowing through the entire town nonstop, and you've got the smell of everybody's poop on the street blowing through on top of that.
I'll be honest, I'm surprised anyone fell in love back then. Like, this sounds like the least romantic. Like, I don't know. I'm just keep thinking, like, what if you fell in love with the count? Like, you couldn't. You just feel like fucking grossed out all the time.
I literally like I have thought about that too. I was watching I don't know, like a Bridgerton or something like that. And just like first just in the amount of clothes they would make people wear on a summer day,
Yeah.
and then you are expected
Yeah.
to like go bang it out together, like that doesn't
Yeah, with no AC. I mean, you know,
Oof.
I
no
understand
showers,
that that's
sometimes
what they
a
had
shower.
to work with, but like, you know, I'm like, it just seems
It's amazing that the population
rough.
is what it is today when like, well, I guess there wasn't any birth control, but I'm amazed people were getting naked with each other. Like there shouldn't be this many people today, but
It
somehow
just
they just
feels
kept
like
popping kids out.
you wouldn't be like, you'd be like, not today, you know? I
Not
feel like
even
I'd be like, ugh.
I don't, maybe I've just got too many sensory issues or something, or I just like the idea of being sweaty, first of all, in any context, no. But also like underneath that many clothes and then putting my hot sweaty body on someone else's hot sweaty body after they've been in that many clothes and it's 100 degrees outside? Are you fucking kidding me? Absolutely not.
I
Like,
almost think I'd be less like worried about what other people smell like and just be like constantly um like paranoid that I smell. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think I would be like grossed out by everyone else. I think I would just be constantly like, I can't go around other people. I like don't
I wonder,
don't come
I
near me.
also
I
wonder
stink,
if,
you know.
I also wonder if BO is like like I wonder if we're
Oh,
hypersensitive to BO
you
because it's
know,
so rare that we smell it, but
and
for
I
them maybe they
feel
didn't even
like it.
notice.
Well, I just read a post on Reddit that said, like, explain to me, like, I'm 5, why we have to take such great care of our teeth nowadays, even though, like, for most of humanity, they didn't have access to that. And the responses were really interesting because I've kind of always wondered that as well. And it's because, well, one of the reasons is because we eat so much refined sugar nowadays and foods
Mm.
that the bacteria in your mouth are, like, really drawn to. So we just have to, like, fight that more. But then also it's just like people who didn't have or who had really bad teeth issues just didn't make it very long, or, you know,
Oh
they just
shit,
didn't.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel like I wonder if the BO2 is like also a response to maybe the clothes we wear nowadays, or like using deodorant that does X, Y, and Z. I don't know. Like maybe our bodies have changed over time. I don't know.
Maybe, but also maybe they fucking smelled. Like I don't
Yeah. I mean, I'm
I
sure they
don't
smelled. I'm
know.
sure. Like, to be clear, they definitely smelled. To be clear. But
I just
I
like
just wonder
I
if,
can't
like, yeah,
imagine
you're.
if you had like this is fully an exaggeration, but for the sake of the story, if you're only getting like a annual shower or like a monthly shower or something,
I don't
like
think there were showers. I'm gonna
or
be honest. I don't
bath or
think there were
whatever,
showers.
if you're only washing yourself with like river water most of the time, which has its own fucking bacteria, like
River water.
I don't
I
know.
think they like
Like
boiled the water. I mean, okay, yeah, they didn't bathe very often. You're probably right on that. Yes.
I don't know. If I this is as obsessed as I am with time travel, I could not go in the past. I could not, because I'd be like, I cannot blend in. I will stick out like a sore thumb, and I'm not interested in disguising myself by
You'd be carrying like
smelling
a mini
like that.
deodorant around.
Like what? But honestly, think about time travel. If they came to the future, they'd be like, what the fuck does that? Why does everyone smell like linen all of a sudden and fresh scent? What's going on?
They'd be like, why does everyone keep walking really far away from me? Do I smell?
Why is the
Yeah.
deodorant sales girl trying to just throw this at me?
Throw this at my body.
But like, I even wonder, like, if you showed them like a T-shirt and it was like, it's okay, you can just wear this. Like, you don't have to torture yourself.
Oh, I would.
You know,
I bet they would feel so naked.
right?
Without all the layers.
But also, they'd kind of like it. I think. No.
I wonder about that all the time because I'm like, if there are ghosts in my house from the Victorian era, are they like, what the fuck are you wearing? I mean, I'm wearing right now pajama pants with leopard print and like a T-shirt that says "Momster." I'm like, are they just looking at me like, what the fuck has happened to humanity? Probably.
Probably. I mean, they had like fluffy neckerchiefs for sitting at home by themselves. Like
For like going to bed. Yeah.
right? Like they wore like I don't know what the buckles on their shoes and shit. And like now I'm like, if I even have shoes on, it's a good day. Like so
now you have fish flops.
and my shoes are
like,
made of sponge and fishes. Yeah,
and
exactly.
we have the audacity to say that we've like progressed as humanity.
Right.
And they're like, seriously, are you sure?
They're looking at you and like, what are on your feet? And you're like, recycled water bottles. You wouldn't understand. So
Recycled water bottles. Okay, I'm saving the planet. What are you doing?
Anyway, so we've really gone off on a tangent. And like I'm very aware that I've probably said some really uneducated things about like the hygiene of several centuries ago, but I openly say I don't know what I'm talking about here. I don't know.
We're just
But I'm taking my best shot that it probably wasn't what it is today.
It couldn't have been pleasant.
Especially when you're trekking through everyone's poop and in your only pathway out of the city, you know? So
Yeah. Good luck.
Anyway, unless you were super rich and you lived really high up in the towers where you could avoid the wind hitting
or
you.
Probably the wind. I was gonna say some people probably were able to get around the transportation by like, I don't know, they have people to carry them or like a carriage? I don't know. A horse.
My immediate thought was like a fucking piggyback ride. I was like
I mean, they probably could have made that work too, but I meant more like one of these like sedan things where you sit on it and they like carry you.
Right. I don't think maybe someone built that just to stay. I would have just to stay away from the poop. But I think most people were just raw dogging it in their shoes. So
gross. Cool.
And so if you didn't live high up enough in the towers where, you know, the wind wasn't hitting your window, then you were living in the thick of it. You were smelling decomposing bodies next door. You were smelling poop downstairs. And it was a rough time. So the buildings also started expanding because more people were showing up and they're like, we don't know where to house these people. They started turning their cellars into homes. So now there's underground homes for the poorer people, which means that you're pouring your chamber pots on the street, which slides down the stairs into their cellar house.
I mean, that's just horrifying.
You know how like in the winter you're afraid to go downstairs in the city because you'll slip on ice?
Mm-hmm. Oh God.
Oof.
Oh God, imagine.
That's rough. That's a rough one.
Slipping. Oh no.
Slipping face first?
Oh no, oh no.
So the Royal Mile is this thing. It's called the Royal Mile, but it's a historical route through the city with a number of closes that you can walk through. So I think it's like a tourist attraction now in some ways. And the closes are usually named, which I didn't know this, the closes are named after notable people who lived on them. So like Craig's Close. Craig was, I guess, the most Glenn Close. Yes, Glenn was the most popular girl of her close, for sure. So they were named either after like names like Craig's or Glenn's, or they were named after businesses. So it would be like Old Fish Market Close. Can you imagine living on the Old Fish Market and the fish market gets the name and you don't? Like, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah. Your name's Glenn. And you're like, it was right there.
Yeah.
Glenn Close, it was right there.
It's right there in all of the puppy dog fur I have in my closet. Yeah.
So embarrassing.
So I like to wonder, I don't know this at all, but I wonder if there was some sort of like a stereotype at the time of like if you lived on a close that was named after a business and not a people, then all the people were shitty, you know?
Oh, wow. Maybe.
just to create scandal. Like, you know, I'd be
That
that girl. Like,
I was gonna say you're
I'd
just
be
implanting rumors hundreds of years later. Yeah.
and what are they gonna do about it? No, I don't. I don't know. But I like to imagine someone had an opinion, and that person was probably me before I reincarnated over here.
You gotta bully someone.
Thank you. You understand. So,
I get it.
among the most famous of these closes is Mary King's close. So,
Huh.
which I'm trying to see where I talk about how she got her
I
name.
almost said I've heard of that, and then I'm like, oh right, because you said it 10 minutes ago.
It's like,
Okay,
girl, we're here now.
girl.
Okay, so I will talk about how Mary King got her name on the close. But before we do, my notes are just a little scattered today. Sorry. Not Saoirse. It was me trying to make things better, and then I made things worse. So
You just changed the word close to closet 80 times and then had to undo it. You're like, oh shit.
I actually
That's
put
not what
Glenn
I
in
meant
front
to
of
do.
Mary King, and I almost messed everything up. So already this area, there was a lot of superstitions in the town. People already had a lot of religious beliefs, and there were even like some supernatural sightings just throughout town. There was a lot of strange lights, especially over their lake. There was a lot of strange lights. And
Mm.
I only want to put this in because I think it's like a fun fact is that so people were seeing strange lights over the lake, and nobody ever figured out what they were. But now people say that it was probably a combination of all the methane gas from the dead bodies and poop and the reduced
Swamp
oxygen from
gas.
being in such close quarters in these pathways that you were only
Whoa.
breathing in gas and causing yourself to hallucinate.
Sorry, my computer started talking. It scared the shit out of me.
Who was it? What'd you say?
Sorry, I think I hit a button when I was overreacting and it started talking. Like it was like doing like an accessibility, like read the page, and it said, and that's why we drink. And I scared the absolute bejesus out of me. And now I can try to close it. I don't even know what this is. I downloaded the new Google Chrome and I think it has like settings I've never heard of. I'm so sorry.
Is she
Okay, well,
becoming
I can
sentient?
see.
Is that what's
I
happening?
see half your face, so I apologize for screaming. That was unintentional. Uh, okay, I got rid of
Do you
it.
still see
Sorry.
half my face or all my face?
No, I pull. Whew, you're back.
Are you?
No, I'm gone. I've left the building, but it's okay. My husk is still here, and my husk can podcast like the best of them, so it's fine.
That is fully called dissociation, my friend.
I was literally. I
Like,
know.
my husk can
Why
handle
does
it. The
everyone
rest of me is
keep
not here.
telling me that? Yeah, that's swamp gas, right? Methane. I think
Yeah.
swamp gas is what they like try to say all UFOs are. Either weather balloons or swamp gas. So that's
Interesting.
fascinating and gross.
Isn't it? Yeah, that you could
Yeah.
breathe in so much poop that you just go crazy.
Wait, what? Oh, I didn't hear that part.
What?
What? What are you talking about? I thought you meant that the lights were the methane gas.
Oh, no, that they believe that oh, maybe that's what it was. I don't even remember anymore. I've lost my
You
spot.
thought everyone smelled poop and went crazy? I mean, that's also a likely scenario. I'm not
Honestly,
gonna lie.
I'd go fucking
if you'd
crazy.
said that, I'd be like, yeah, me too.
Maybe I read the notes wrong. I really thought it was like you breathe in the poop and go crazy because like it's enough
Wait,
methane
read
gas
it
from
again. I was listening to a robot talk while you said it really loud in my ears. So I
my
apologize.
understanding. My understanding. No. You probably actually corrected me before the internet did, but my understanding was that there was so much poop that you're walking through, plus the smell of the dead bodies, that you are actually breathing in that shit nonstop. Plus the reduced oxygen from walking in such narrow pathways eventually caused you to hallucinate. But maybe you're right,
serious?
where the lights were methane gas on their own far away, and we just also happen to be being deprived of oxygen by being in close pathways. It could be either.
Yeah, I missed the oxygen part. I'm sure that doesn't help. But
It could be
yeah,
both.
I feel like that matches swamp gas. It's sort of like where methane. I don't know.
Gotcha. That makes a lot
don't
of
know.
sense. For the plot, I'm gonna assume both though.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, I'm not calling myself an expert over here. Not today. Maybe on
Not
others.
today.
Maybe on
Some
other
other
things, but
day.
not today.
Yeah.
I grew up in the American education system. I don't know what to tell you. So maybe I breathe in too much poop.
No comment.
So on top of the smells of dead bodies and poop all the time, then Edinburgh gets slammed by the bubonic plague, which we just talked about last week too.
Yep.
This area got 11 waves of the bubonic plague. Sometimes these waves killed as much as a fifth of the population at once in just a few months.
Jesus.
Which, like, how it... I feel like 11 waves where sometimes up to 20%, I don't know math that well, but like 11 times up to 20% of your population, there should be no people left. There should be no people left.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it was not 20% every time, because that
No,
really would
only
not
once
make
it
any
was
sense.
up to 20%.
Oh, okay.
But still, like, just like it's unfathomable.
It boggles the mind. It does. Yeah, it boggles the mind. Even after COVID-19, which I feel like we've recorded episodes like this pre-COVID-19 pandemic, and we were like, thank God that doesn't happen anymore. And now we have a little more hindsight, but still, it is. It's still hard to believe how many people were killed. Back then.
Yeah, I think last week, I already forget the number, but it was somewhere between like 75 and 200 million people or something.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of COVID-19, I'm not saying we should have gone.
We don't talk about that enough, you know?
I'm not saying we should have gone as intense as these people, but I am saying overwhelmingly in a general way, I'm very proud of how they tried to handle the bubonic plague at the time, and I feel like we could have taken a page from their book, because
forget like studying vaccines. Like, do whatever M's about to tell you to do.
Well, if they had a vaccine back then for the bubonic plague, I would have told them to fucking take it. Let's be clear.
Okay,
but
just making sure.
But on top of, like, for the time period, and given the amount of people in 2020 that refuse to be actively for the people, you know, with COVID, this is what they did. In Edinburgh during the bubonic plague, they took it very seriously, enforced night curfews for everybody where you could not leave your home. They shut down schools. They shut down businesses. They had 12-day mandatory quarantines for every person who either is infected or was near somebody infected. And they banned people from coming into the town. And if you were caught letting people stay with you that did not live in that town, and you might have accidentally created an outbreak, you would be branded.
What?
One guy who I'm not saying this is like the way it should have been handled, but it does ring true to so many stories we heard during COVID of like someone being like, oh, well, you know, someone I live with is sick, but I don't really want to miss going to the movies, blah, blah, blah. There was one guy who knew his wife was sick and went to church anyway. And when everyone found out, they hanged him. And then there was another woman who brought in illegal imports, which caused an outbreak, and she was drowned. They were not fucking around in like such a serious way.
Yeah.
But I guess they were like, during the plague, you're probably going to die anyway. So like, I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking, but they really were not fucking around.
Sounds like
with
panic. Sounds like
full panic. Hysteria, probably.
Yeah.
And the plague was bad everywhere, but especially in like a town that's nothing but crowded areas, and the only place you can get around is through these really narrow pathways where you're pretty much destined to get infected if somebody else is near you and they're sick. So in 1645, one outbreak caused half of the city's population to die.
Holy shit.
Mary King's Close was hit especially hard, which is why it is now so haunted.
Understood.
So I said I'd get back to why we named the close after Mary King. So Mary King ended up being a clothing merchant, and she was a burgess. So a burgess, I didn't know this, but it was a title that only really important people got, and they held an authority in their community, and they had political sway in their community. And she ended up getting it through marriage. Her husband had this title, and then when he died, he left it to her, which I didn't know you could leave a title to somebody. But
that's nice.
But he ended up like really hooking her up because she became very powerful at a time when a lot of women didn't. And because she was in like clothing and fabrics, her whole community was very vibrant residents and craftsmen. Aww. And it was a very lovely neck of the woods. She also, by the way, when she was given this Burgess title, she was able to She was given a city council seat, which, again, unheard of for women back then, and it gave her the right to vote, which the rest of Scotland's women couldn't do for another 300 years.
Jeez, 300 more years. Wow. Yeah,
So
that's crazy.
the fact that her husband was like, I'm not leaving you to dry. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, that was pretty dope.
Damn.
Unfortunately, even though she had this really wonderful community of a bunch of like crafty arts people who all lived together in harmony, when the plague hit, every single person in this close died.
Oh, shit.
Some stories say that they actually just closed their close gates door and just locked it and just let everyone die in there,
Oh.
which is a rumor, is not true. If people were there and they were sick, they would have, or if people were left there and were like starving or something like that, they would have been given quarantine provisions like everybody else. So it's not true.
Right.
But it adds to the creepy factor. And eventually, when the plague left, only a few years later, Oliver Cromwell led an English invasion into the city. He scorched the earth, thus killing all their crops and cutting off their resources. And that's how he captured the city. And then years after that, there were outbreaks of cholera and smallpox through these closes. So just death. In the 1680s, this is our first ghost story, there was a lawyer who moved in with his wife. He moved into the neighborhood that's still called Mary King's Close. And one day, his wife was relaxing when all of a sudden she felt a presence near her and she could feel herself being watched by someone.
Oh, great.
When she looked up, she saw a disembodied head of an old man floating above her chair.
That's quite a time to realize someone's watching you. Like, you know, sometimes you're like, man, I had no idea you were staring at me. And like,
Yeah, you hope
you're
it's like a squirrel or something.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's just a little squirrel or like a little bug. And then, oh, a disembodied head. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, nervous system, for recognizing that.
And like floating above, like, did you breathe in too much poop air? Is that what happened?
Yeah, honestly, I'm going back to your old theory about the poop air because that is pretty bananas.
Well, apparently she passed out, and then when she came to, she told her husband what she saw, but of course he didn't believe her until that night when he was sleeping, and he wakes up from a heavy presence in the room, and he feels like he's being stared at, and it was no squirrel, but it was the floating head.
Jesus.
Thomas, the husband, freaks out. He starts praying that the head will go away, and maybe it's just the atheist in me, but the literal religious defiance is so funny here because he prays that the head will go away, and instead a whole second head floats into the room.
Okay, to be fair, you say the atheist in you, but you are always the one who says anytime you're scared, the first thing you do is say, okay, Jesus, come on in. So I'm like, is this what would happen to M in this scenario? Our Father who art in heaven, and now all of a sudden, like, my twin, head number 2 comes in?
Honestly, if I were praying and like something like that was happening to me, and then a second head came in, as I'm praying, even further back into my head, I think I would be recognizing that it was overdue. It was like probably earned. It's like
you're right. I've never even been into a church. I don't know who I'm trying to kid here.
You obviously know that I'm only reaching out to you in a time of crisis, and if this is karma, then it's karma. So anyway, he prayed the head would go away. Instead, a second one, this one's a child's head, floats into the room.
Oh no! I thought it was funny.
Evil,
and then it
canceled. Well,
I thought it was like meant it's a dead child, so I was like, well, that's upsetting. I mean, it's all upsetting, but
it was just a second head. I think we can still laugh. I know it's fun.
Great.
I don't. Well, hang on a second. I'll tell you why in a second. So then, not only there's the head, then there's the child's head floating around. Then there's a ghostly cat who comes through the door as he's still praying for things to go away. This cat all of a sudden shows up like, oh, and I'm part of the fuck you party also.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we're partying in here. Come on in.
Then a ghostly dog walks in. And then, like, he's praying wrong. Like,
I was gonna say, are you sure he's not reciting like the little old lady who swallowed a fly? Because I feel like that this is like he's actually the plot.
Praying backwards in Latin. It's really weird.
I think that might be what's going on. He's saying a hex.
And then a pair of disembodied arms just floats on in.
Cool.
I feel like as disembodied arms, what direction are they when they choose to free float on their own? Are they hands up, hands down, to the side? Are they palm out, palm in?
Do they have the elbow? I
Is
don't
the
know.
elbow involved? Like, are they kind of like
Somebody
bent and
messaged
flopping
me
around?
about. Remember when you asked me if a neck and a throat, like where are they? Somebody
Uh-huh.
like wrote in to me on. I haven't even read it yet. I haven't gotten to my DMs, but I saw somebody's like, "Hey, as like I think an ENT or something. Like, let me tell you where the throat is." And I was like, "Okay, good. Next time Emma asks, I'll be ready. I have to go open
But did
that
they tell you
DM,
where
but
the
I'll be ready."
threck is?
I think again, you invented that term. And we
I
did
think it makes
trademark
total
it.
sense, and it's one of those onomatopoeias where you hear threck, it makes the same
I
sound
hear
that
Shrek
you're
though. I don't hear. I don't have the same association
no,
with.
because when you hear threck, it sounds as aggressive as the way your threck moves when someone tries to touch it, like you know.
Oh, sure. Yeah, actually, I can. Yeah, okay, I get it. I do.
See,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
makes
right.
sense. I know. Okay. Anyway, tell the ENT I sent you. She'll know what
Sorry,
it means.
I'll tell them that they're not needed any longer. Thank
It's
you
like
for
you
your
and your
input.
threat can walk right out of our DMs without any information on it. So anyway, I don't know what direction the disembodied arms are. I don't know if one's being funny and one's upside down while the other one's right side up. I don't know. However you choose to imagine it is great. Thomas continues to pray, and the apparitions all start laughing and dance around, almost as if mocking his prayers. It's
Okay.
like literally like something out of an evil Dr. Seuss. It's like crazy.
It feels like a cartoon. Yeah.
Then he hears a moan out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden they disappear. But then weeks later, he gets really sick and he starts hallucinating and seeing circles of crows around him. And very soon
Ooh.
after that, he died.
Oh no.
So that makes me wonder, like, was this an illness that causes hallucinations? And also, does that mean all the ghosts were also hallucinations, you know? But then, like, his wife also saw it. Did she
That
also die
part's-
recently?
Wait a second. But what if she saw it, told him about it, he didn't believe her, and then it was
Oh,
already in his
shit.
mind as an idea, so when he hallucinated, that's what his brain conjured, you know?
Ooh, rough time.
Mm.
Okay, well, there's your first ghost story. And then I want to say, over time, more and more people started abandoning the narrow streets, especially the wealthy who moved to Newtown. And in the 18th century, now that the rich had left, and now it was just ew, plebes in the old town, they decided that they were going to build a brand new Royal Exchange to compete with Newtown, which I love that they're like, we're going to build a trade building better than the rich, which, like, I appreciate the gusto. I appreciate that. So they decided that Mary King's Close was the perfect spot for the exchange, but there were already houses and buildings there. And instead of like digging out the foundations to fully get rid of the houses, they just tore down the upper floors and built the exchange on top. So by putting the exchange on top of the lower floors, because remember, people started living in the cellars,
Right.
it essentially buried the original underground. So it became a street on top of a street.
Understood.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Yep.
Some people did stay in their cellar homes and in the underneath the ground homes, meaning that they ended up living literally underground and would have to take back alleys and tunnels to get back up to the ground.
Like mole people.
Like mole people. Yeah, I'll tell them you said that. So in 1902, the last business in Mary King's Close officially closed, and that was 150 years after it went underground. So there were businesses until 1902 that were still operating underground there and then closed down.
Do you know what the last holdout was?
No, I don't know. Maybe being in a fucking creepy abandoned street by yourself and, you know?
No, I mean, like, what was the store? Like, what was the last?
Skechers. I don't know.
Wow, they really are the only ones left at the mall, huh? Yeah, that's true.
So now there's underground. There's an underground neighborhood which is even more enclosed than it ever was above ground. Now that it's been wiped out and a whole new street's been put on top, and when people lived down there, illness spread because they spread even worse, really, because now you don't even have access to open air.
Right.
Then there was a crime issue because nobody could see what was going on down there. So it was like the underbelly and
free for all. Yeah,
exactly. So it just got worse and worse. And then there actually was a poet who wrote about the conditions of this underground town. And he said, the condition of the inhabitants is as little known to respectable Edinburgh as are the habits of moles and earthworms.
The mole people. He gets it.
You actually nailed it. It's like you were the poet reincarnate.
I mean, it's incredibly rude, and I wouldn't like. Come on, like just because they're Anyway, but yes,
I gotcha.
Okay. Yeah.
So those who lived and worked in the underground close, they often reported ghosts wandering the buildings, which like I do wonder, as much as I'm a believer, I wonder how much of the random sounds they must have heard was just a whole fucking town upstairs, you know?
Was a
Or
mole, a literal mole, a real one. I feel like you'd
the one that was
have
staring at everyone and then became
right?
disembodied heads.
I just feel like you'd have so many like random things that you wouldn't normally expect in your day-to-day life if you're living literally underground, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Like moles.
Like moles. You know what? I've said enough bullshit today. You can go now. Yeah, that makes sense.
I've got it from here.
So above ground, people were still seeing strange lights over the lake. And once the last business closed, the town was officially abandoned. And so now there's like a whole abandoned town underneath. And it was only used temporarily again as a bomb shelter during World War II. So that probably added only worse stuff to it.
Yeah.
In 2003, the Mary King's Close and the closes in general, I guess, or the underground town became its own attraction. But before that, before 2003, which is only 20 years ago, people like me in high school, their like favorite thing to do was to go try to explore this abandoned town.
Sure. Because of course. I mean,
because I would have done it too. I would have totally done it. And imagine if like there was like one like kind of like tall, lanky bad boy in the corner.
I know.
And he was like,
I already imagined it. I'm like, I'm not. It's. I saw exactly what you're outlining in my like. You know exactly where my brain went. Anyway, the same reason I started the Scrabble squad at my high school. You know, just like trying to impress a boy who was interested in my friend. You know, it's tale as old as time. It's my true life.
I'll never like it. It's truly written out of a television series for you to even have the gall to say, "Oh, I was trying to impress him. That's why I created the Scrabble squad." I can't imagine a more Tina Belcher experience.
She's relatable. What can I say?
Did you have shirts? Can I join? I'll make shirts. Do you want a shirt?
I mean, you could have joined until you started shitting all over the Scrabble squad and how unsexy it is. And then I kind of changed my mind. Like, maybe I don't want you. I don't want a hater, involved.
What if I told you I knew like a really cool lanky bad boy in the corner?
I thought you were going to say a really cool word. And I was like, actually, that might get you into the Scrabble
The word
squad,
is romance, my friend, and I can get you there. So
okay. You know what? I am nothing if not fickle. So yeah, sure. You can come in. And by the way, I don't know if I've told you this, but I really like salami now. It's my new favorite food.
Fuck you. The first reaction you just saw was me going, is she fucking kidding me?
You made a face and I was like, oh, I've angered the beast. I'm so sorry.
If anyone's watching YouTube, go back in time because that was a real reaction of me thinking.
I'm sorry.
I literally was flabbergasted. I was like,
maybe it was too niche of a callback. Did everybody else understand that, or was it like, what the fuck? Why would you say that right now? Like,
it was perfectly niche, but I want you to know that it's actually happened like that so many times. Where that face has happened so many times. Where I'm like, is she kidding me? Like in the 2 conversations ago, she said she doesn't eat this shit anymore.
Sometimes I am kidding. Mostly I'm not. So
I'm gonna, you know what? If you keep it up, I'm gonna call you a really awful word, but I'm not gonna say it to you. I'm just gonna spell it in the Scrabble squad.
I was gonna say you can write it down next meeting. I'll figure it out.
I like to think that Scrabble squad has a word du jour. You know.
Ooh, yeah. Me too.
What's your word today?
The word of the day.
Mm-hmm. Salami.
I was gonna say salami. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in 2003, it became its own attraction. But before then, people would try to explore it, although it was not legal. Some people could get access down there if you asked in advance. So psychics would go down there, investigators would go down there. One psychic said that they actually felt overwhelming hunger and sickness and being cold. And then she actually felt someone grab her leg like a little kid, and she ended up, I guess, seeing the little kid or sensing the little kid. Who was such an intense energy, she couldn't even go into one of the rooms at first. And when she finally did, the spirit of the kid said her name was Annie and she lost her doll.
That's terrifying and also very sad.
So then the psychic came back later to the same spot with a new doll for her. And and brought her some peace. And ever since then, any visitors will try to leave offerings for Annie, so she always has a doll with her.
Okay. I mean, that's really sweet.
Get ready for the word du jour to be a fucking fist fight, because
whoa.
in 2019, someone thought it'd be funny to steal Annie, the doll.
Why would you do that?
They stole Annie's doll, and it has never come back.
No.
And to this day, staff still even say publicly, online, wherever they can, whoever has the doll, please bring it back. Annie really, really misses it. And they even say, if you bring it to us, you won't even be punished. No questions asked. We just want her back for Annie. And
yeah, if you're hearing this and you know who did it, just say, just go in and say, I found this. I didn't do it.
I just found this random thing. And honestly, I like to imagine that maybe Annie just loved it so much that the thing happened where it magically disappeared from our cosmos, and she has it.
Maybe. Let's go with that.
Can you imagine if she just took her own fucking doll and then heard so much kerfuffle about it, she gave it back?
I was going to say, she sees people like making public statements and she just sits there like...
She's like, oh shit.
They'll never know.
In Mary King's Close, people have also seen orbs on film. They've also gotten full figure apparitions on camera. In 2005, there was one of the professors of Edinburgh University. She came to do an experiment, ironically, on the supernatural. And while she was down there, she was getting frustrated that she couldn't do the experiment because she kept hearing footsteps and the sounds of rustling clothing. And she thought it was other people nearby, but it was the supernatural.
It was the supernatural.
It was the supernatural. She said, from a professional point of view, I was annoyed because I thought it was someone intruding on our experiment. LOL, it was the ghost babe.
They were like, we are the experiment. Hello.
It's like, we're right here. We're giving you everything you want. I'm the star. People will see a large imposing figure in this area, and many investigators have gotten EVPs. Some personal favorites are when the investigators asked, "Are you sick of seeing us yet?" And a voice said, "Yes, I am."
It's like, oh, sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to tell you. Yeah.
and then another one, someone said, "Would you like us to leave now?" And then the voice said, "Just get out." Which I like that. I like to think "just get out" was said with like a really slow cigarette pull. It's like, just get out.
It's like, finally, a question I can answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Others have claimed to see the ghost of Major Thomas Weir. I am confused if Major is his name or his title.
I'm assuming title, but I don't know.
I am too, but then he starts being referred to as Major, and I'm like,
oh, okay. Then maybe not.
I don't know. Remember that time that someone was named Welcome in one of your bullshit stories?
Yeah, I do. And then I Googled, what does the name Welcome mean? And babycenter.com said, the name Welcome means welcome. And I was like, thank you so much. This is extremely helpful information.
I'm so glad I ran in a circle for however long I did.
Thomas Weir. Weird. Sorry.
Weir without the D.
Yeah.
Major Thomas Weir.
So Major Weir is his name. Like, yeah. So that's his title. That's his rank.
Oh, okay. Because, by the way, as a kid, the kids would call him Major Weirdo. Like, obviously.
Major Weirdo. You are such a bully today.
If it weren't the kids in middle school, now that I know it's his rank, someone in the military hates him and calls him Major Weirdo.
Major Weirdo.
Others have claimed to see the ghost of Major Thomas Weir, who was known to carry a staff with him wherever he went. Yikes. But I guess he also does that as a... So he was a respected member of his church. By the way, we're ending on this story, and I just want you to know, like, I saved this for last because talk about a fucking crazy ride. Truly Major Weirdo. So
okay, I'm excited.
He was a respected member of his church. I'm only giving you backstory. The point is people see his apparition, but just so we all know who he was, here we go. He was a respected member of his church until one day during prayer, he announced to the clergy voluntarily that he was working with the devil. He could just not fucking said that and been fine. But okay.
Put that in your LinkedIn. Don't take that to church with you.
Put it in your Zanga and nowhere else. Like, what are you talking about?
Nowhere else.
Put it in your away message so people can question it at least.
Yeah, put it in more vague. It's not even, you just took all the mystery out of it.
Yeah. And also if you had a good situation. You had a high rank, you were a respected member of your community, and
You had a
then
cool
one day he
nickname?
woke up and he said, "Never fucking mind." So
Yeah.
tells the church he's working with the devil. And then he goes, oh, that's not all. And then he accuses himself of bestiality. Yikes.
Whoa. What?
Incest with his unmarried sister. I love how unmarried is the crime there. Okay.
Don't worry though. She's not married, so
Don't worry. I didn't disrespect another man. I just slept with my sister.
That's horrifying.
And he also admitted to learning witchcraft sorcery from his mother. So he really just hit all the buzzwords. And
This is getting weird.
it's almost like he knew he was about to get caught in something not that bad. Like maybe there was like a cheating scandal and he was like, let me just put all these other ones in front of people. So
While we're
truth
admitting
doesn't-
things.
it was almost like it was like a weird defense where his defense was offense. And he was like, here's all these terrible things about me for you to focus on. So you don't pay attention to the other thing. That's the truth.
That tiny little thing I did. Yeah.
So he says, I'm working with the devil. I'm into bestiality. I bang my sister and my mom is a witch. Then he says,
That sounds like the Monty Python. Like your dad is a whatever the fuck.
then people try to, I love how like that was all way too much for people to process. And so they didn't even know what to do. And they're trying to save him from himself. They're literally
no.
buddy, like you just say out loud, just say you're mentally ill so that way none of these confessions we can work with. Like just say something's up and we can ignore all of it.
Just say you caught that hallucinating disease from that guy who saw the heads. And
right.
We'll understand.
Just say you breathed in too much poop air. It's okay.
We've all been there.
We've all done it.
It's okay.
Also, like this is around a time period when like they were torturing women to admit that they were witches and then killing them on site for for a birthmark. This man stands up and says, I am into witchcraft and so much worse. Then they're like, buddy, calm down. That can't be real. That's not real.
Yeah. They're like, we know you better than that, silly goose.
It's like, literally like, you don't have a woman's illness. God forbid.
Yeah.
So anyway, just to remind you that throughout history, men get away with everything. He said, I want to sleep with dogs and my family. And they went, that's okay, buddy. That's
what
okay.
a silly goose.
Just too much poop air.
It happens.
Anyway, then you think, oh man, that's the season finale material we were looking for. Guess again, because his sister corroborates the story. And claims that she, not even like, oh, he's like assaulting me. She says, no, we're into it. And I have a witch mark on my forehead, probably like a wrinkle or something, because she's probably 21 and not married. Oh, yeah, she's unmarried, remember? That's the problem.
She's got one wrinkle on her forehead. Sick.
And then both of them together insisted, I mean, this has to be mental illness. They've been both insisted on being tried and executed. Like they said, they literally that morning they woke up, everyone loved them. And then by nightfall, they were begging people to kill them.
Okay.
Then in the end, the courts didn't want to charge them with witchcraft. Oh, the irony.
Yeah.
And then ended up, it was like, we'll find you guilty for other things, but not witchcraft. So they were relinquished of the witchcraft crime, but they were found guilty of bestiality, and that was enough to have them hanged and their remains burned. Which I appreciate that they had that kind of guilt, I guess, but like you could have also never said anything and gotten away with it. So like I want to know what the thought process was there.
This is so weird.
At the scaffold for her execution, the sister, I guess in a blaze of glory, she was like, this is my last time to really like make a statement. At her execution, she says, executioner, uno momento, and then takes all of her clothes off in front of the crowd. Just to be remembered. I don't know. It all feels really very unstable. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something was off for sure. Like,
what the fuck is going on here?
And then on the way to his execution, the major weirdo, he was marched through Mary King's close and they think some of his energy is still lingering around there. So if you ever feel anything fucking chaotic, just know that it might be him.
Keep walking.
Don't look up. You might see his head, or I don't know. I don't know what the deal is there.
I don't want to know.
I really don't. Anyway, so he's probably the wildest energy you're going to pick up in Mary King's Close.
Yeah,
but visitors in general can take tours of the close today, and many people have said, just like with that psychic, that they feel very cold out of nowhere. They're overcome with emotions. They feel sick. They get really, really hungry. They see apparitions walking around, going through the walls and down the halls. They get grabbed. They hear voices. And before you do go on a tour, even if it's not like a spooky haunted tour, the tour guides like make a public statement that like, don't even think about checking out these narrow pathways if you're claustrophobic. So
okay, yeah, good to know.
Or afraid of the dark, because it gets dark really quick when there's no sunlight because of all the buildings. So
great.
Anyway, that is Mary King's Close.
Jeez, that was a fucking journey, dude.
I know. I really talked forever. I'm sorry.
No. We if I don't know if only YouTubers can sense this, but we had a couple technical difficulties right in the middle, so it probably just feels long. But
it's very fun when people think that almost 400 episodes into this, we've got it figured out. Every day there's a tech issue.
There's always something.
Always.
Always. Okay. Well, I have it's finally time for you to understand why I am in the headspace that I
should we
do it.
Crack into it?
Let's crack into the story of Dennis Rader.
Please stand by. We have to step away.
We're back. We had some kerfuff. It felt like the universe was trying to shut it down as we recorded this episode. So we took a little break. So if you're on YouTube and you're like, why did they do a costume change? We thought about.
I have depression. And I don't often change my clothes, so maybe I'm wearing the same thing. I don't remember anymore.
You're not. I checked. But
okay.
I was wearing my Momster shirt, and I was like, well, I could put it back on. I don't have any problems with wearing dirty clothes, but that just seems disingenuous because we did take a little break. And while we were taking said break, I felt really like making my own life difficult and decided to keep watching more information about the topic I'm covering today. And so now I'm coming back to M with a revised, remember when they would sell textbooks? So M earlier said Chegg. And I said,
this is like your 7th edition.
The fuck? Yeah, where they changed the edition just to make you pay $140 for it, even though like they changed the color of the font or something.
Right. They changed the history textbook with the white man in an Egyptian outfit to a white man in a different racist outfit.
They've changed the number of buttons on George Washington's petticoat. Well, that's kind of what I did here today. I'm here with all sorts of petticoats. M has heard part of the story, and Eva said we could throw her under the bus, so I'm going to do exactly that.
Sure.
Apparently,
let me get the list. Hang on.
No, M, not that part. That is a whole separate episode.
Eva cut that out. You didn't hear about it.
Eva cut that out. No, Eva apparently is like new day, new her, and got like a treadmill that she walks on at the desk, and then also bought an Apple Watch on eBay, and then also decided to learn what Siri does and is. And I guess tried to while we were recording, tried to text Rachel, and like the whole call just like
interfered with our episode. The whole thing shut down.
Yeah. So anyway, all that to say, it's a combination of all our faults. Really, probably not M's, but maybe mine.
But mainly Eva's. So.
But mostly Eva's. No.
But yeah. Anyway. So if you are on YouTube, you'll notice that our intro and are we in like do we do 3 different costume changes throughout this episode?
No, we're not doing your story again.
Oh, right. No, but in the intro where we're like talking about how much fun we're having. Like why we drank.
No, we already did all that.
Right, but aren't we going to be in different clothes than that right now?
Yeah.
And then next week This is a part 2 surprise to everybody.
No, this
And
is
we'll be
part
in different
1.
clothes. Right. And then next week will be part 2.
Yeah, but part 2 we record on a different day.
Oh, right. Shit. For a second, I thought we were just like spinning around backstage and doing a bunch of changes. Bunch of changes.
What is happening? Okay. Basically, this episode is for one.
I forget. What's a podcast? Hang on.
Ah! Thank God no one's listening to this right now. Anyway, yeah, okay. I'm just going to tell the story. And
Okay.
Em already knows the story because I started it when we recorded this a couple days ago. I'm going to start it over again. I'm covering BTK, okay? BTK, Dennis Rader. Ever heard of him? He's a fucking terror, and he lives in my brain. And I'm so ready to get him out of there. So ready. I'm so ready.
Can we all give everywhere where everyone is raise your drinks and let's give Christine like a little sip across the globe because
Aw.
she has had one of the worst criminals in her mind for I don't know 2 weeks, 3 weeks now.
No, months now. It's been. I swear to God, I went back. It's been probably like 2 months, maybe 6 weeks that I've been working on this, and it all began. Let me blame someone else. It all began when I first listened to the Creeps and Crimes 3-parter that Taylor did on BTK. And I was like, wow, this is like so hard hitting and so well done. And she was so fucked up by the story that I listened to it and then I got fucked up by the story. And then I was like, well, now I have to cover it. So if you wait a few months, like did research, now I'm covering it. And I'm like, I know how she feels. He lives in your brain. It's terrible. And so now that I'm redoing this again, it's time to get him out. Let's fucking get him out.
Okay.
Yep. And by that I mean I'm just putting it into all your brains, and I'm so sorry. But
if you happen to also be a true crime podcaster and you want to report on him,
yeah,
you can.
Oh my God.
It's just a chain of trauma
it's a
between
chain email. If you send this to
Yay.
7 people, the girl from the ring won't come out of your TV.
Oh, well, but we do. We show up in your TV sometimes if you're watching
in
us on
many
YouTube.
costume changes. You'll never know. Okay,
I feel like such an idiot. Okay.
I'm so sorry, everybody. All right, this is a really long intro into my half of the episode, and I do apologize. Okay, so let's just get into it. All right, let me tell you about BTK. I'm going to tell myself that you forgot most of this already.
I did, and you did say that since we recorded last time, you've done even more research. So there is information that
a
I
lot
just
more new stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is actually pretty much a new episode to me.
Pretty brand new to you. Okay, great. So the BTK killer, as he is known, otherwise known as Dennis Rader, was a prolific serial killer who was active from the 1970s, which was the golden age, as terrible as a phrase as that is, of serial killers, into the 90s. And it was Dennis Rader himself who suggested his own title, which is just as loserish as you can imagine. It, of course, stood for his notorious method of murder. You did pass this test last time, but can you tell the people what BTK stands for?
Yes, and I'm glad I took a beat with myself because I almost said it really excitedly since I've passed a test, and and now I'm going to bring it back down. Bring it back down. BTK stands for bind, torture, and kill.
That's correct. And fucking terrible. We'll get into why, but I think you can all guess. So this guy, Dennis Rader, he desperately wanted recognition. He idolized other serial killers like Ted Bundy. He really wanted attention, and that would ultimately be his downfall, which I feel like we've seen with other narcissistic serial killers in the past. And he took such pride in what he did, all the fucked up things he did. And he liked his own title that he gave himself so much that we are going to call him Dennis Rader today, because Dennis probably is like the least assuming. It's like the most
you made a really good
point.
Name. You made a really good point the first time we recorded this, which nobody else got to hear. But and I know you just said it quickly, but last time you kind of lingered on it. And I think it's important to mention that, you know, so many people that we cover, one of the reasons that they do it, or one of the side benefits to them, is that they get this notoriety of, you know, this is what I did to them, or they're my victims, not their survivors of what bullshit I pulled out. And he literally named himself because he wanted to be known. And so one of the reasons you said last time that we're going to be calling him Dennis is just our own extra version of fuck you. We're not going to call you the whatever weird supervillain name you created for yourself.
Yeah, like I don't want you jacking off to your own nickname, you fucking pervert. Yeah,
Exactly.
so we're gonna call him Dennis. You know what? Just a normal guy from Kansas, Dennis.
Mhm.
And Dennis was born March 9th, 1945. And this part is probably one of the wildest, even though it sounds innocuous, statements in this whole set of notes, is that he had such a normal childhood that it
Mm.
just does not seem conceivable why he turned into what he turned into.
Right.
So that's not a normal thing with these guys, right? Like there's usually some trauma, some abuse. Nope.
A head injury.
Yeah, a head injury,
anything.
and he's claimed that he had head injuries. And I kind of looked into that a little bit, and he claimed, oh, I was dropped on the head as a baby, and it was such a severe blow to my head that I turned blue. But like, nobody can really for sure say if that's true, A, and B, if that would have turned him into this kind of monster. So
Right.
beyond that, his family, they were just a regular old church going Wichita family, active in the community. One of Dennis's friends from childhood remembered him being like somewhat competitive, and could even be, kind of a bully, like a sore loser. But I'm like, I know many kids, including myself, who probably behaved that way, and it wasn't a red flag enough to turn my parents into, to put them on
Right.
high alert. He's just a normal bratty kid. So inside, unfortunately, during this time, which nobody, of course, knew, he was harboring quite a few dark fantasies. And this all started when he was in grade school. So he and his
Mm.
friends would play cops and robbers, or like the even less PC version, cowboys, and they
Mhm.
would tie each other up in barns. And that is kind of when he first realized that the act of being tied up, but more so the act of someone else being tied up and restrained, was very arousing to him. And I don't know that he knew what arousal was, but it gave him, a funny feeling. So I'm not.
There was.
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, sorry. Now I'm just on my like fucking train to nowhere.
I know, but for the
please
sake of
hit the
banter,
emergency
let me.
brake.
I pulled it and it's broken off and the car's
You're
still
like,
going
"Oops."
60 miles an hour.
Hey, it's like me on the highway.
Oh, Christine.
Oh, too soon.
I was, just for the sake of banter, going to be willing to embarrass myself if you were interested.
Oh my God, I would love nothing more.
Yeah. So when I was younger, like a little kid, we had, my mom's house still has a basement, and they have like these load bearing poles down there.
Mm.
And my friends and I also used to tie each other up on the pole. And I don't know what that was about, but I also was really into it. And like, not like, and I don't know. I don't know why, because that has, for the record, I don't know if anyone's caught on to my ways, but it has not translated to like
No.
adult me. But something as a kid, I don't know what it was, but I remember we used to tie each other.
Like statement, like, I don't know if you all have caught on, but I'm really not that into BDSM
just in
my
case-
own relationship. Like, what?
Just, I know someone's got a side comment about being tied up, and like I have.
Right.
Since we're there, let me just say I have made a hard line that I'm not interested in being tied up. Like, here's a main reason. Like, as an adult, I'm afraid someone's gonna touch my armpits. I'm like, what if I get tickled? I can't tolerate. I don't even want to know about it.
Well, I am sorry that I'm taking my clothes off, but it's so hot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I was wearing. I thought I was wearing a t-shirt. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me put on this.
Not while I'm in the middle of talking about like my awakening.
Why am I doing that? I'm just so sweaty.
You
not an
wish
attractive
we
thing,
were
it's just
tying each
sweat.
other up to a pole, Christine, I think. No, we would.
Oh,
Okay, here's the
God.
weird thing, though. As a little kid, I had like a tea set. Like, I feel like a lot of us had tea sets.
Mm-hmm.
In hindsight, this is like so foul, like bacteria wise, because like I don't remember ever washing them ever. But I had a tea set down there. We had this like game of chase, and whoever lost had to get tied to the pole, and then we would force feed each other Sprite in the tea set. And I don't know how that came about. I don't know why it lasted for years. That was a big game we played. And I also now in hindsight, I'm like, wow, just think of how many years of old sticky Sprite was at the bottom of that. And we just kept drinking new Sprite out of it.
At least it was all chemically, it's just like that
It
fucking
was probably
sugar.
not.
It just eats
that bad.
away the porcelain or whatever.
It was, you mean the grade 1 plastic?
Yeah, it was the made in China little tykes plastic. Yeah.
But I remember like one of my friends at the time, I had a crush on her. And so I would like want to play this game a lot more with her. I was like, I want to be force fed Sprite. I don't know what my problem was, but
well, Allison, maybe that's something to try. Get some Sprite. Maybe it'll like spark a new interest. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying.
But as an adult now, I'm like, oh, but like if I can't drink my own Sprite, like it's so sticky. It's like sensory overload. Anyway. Mom, if you're listening, that's what we did downstairs.
Well, okay. Can I tell you a secret that I've literally not told anybody ever? And I'm putting my sweatshirt back on because the cord of my headphones.
Because of the shame?
No, well, that too. But the cord of the headphones is through the hoodie, so
Christine,
does not. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Like
you just literally undressed for me to talk about a sexual fantasy, and then put your clothes back on.
You literally said I wanted to be tied up, and then I just whipped my shirt off. Like, what is wrong with me? I didn't do it intentionally.
And then I said, story's over, and you put your shirt back on.
I know. I'm so sorry. This is like sickening the way I'm behaving today.
That was such a tease. Wait a minute.
I'm so sorry. Okay, let me put my Ruth Bader Ginsburg's shirt back on. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's the thing. We played a game where we would have... Okay, this is so embarrassing. I'm sweating so much, and I'm still friends with one of these people. So I hope she doesn't hear this.
I can't wait to hear it.
Game in our friend's basement where we would pretend to be like the mailman, and then the other person would invite us in for tea, and then we would drink tea out of the tea set. This seems to be like a weird parallel.
Would the mailman force feed the tea?
No, but then they would fall in love, and then we didn't know what it was, but we would go lay down in bed, and then the other person would come home from work and say, honey, I'm home, and find
What is a telenovela? What are you talking about?
Find the other two with the tea set scattered about, and we played this weird like
adultery game.
Adultery fantasy game.
Interesting, because if you were drinking tea with anyone else, I would also consider that cheating. So your role play has come to life.
A few of us turned out pretty gay, so I'm like, maybe that was what's happening. The people in that group that I recall, several. I wonder if that was part of it. I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe that was like a gay thing that kids did.
There was another game.
Eva,
I don't know.
Did you play tea set and tie you up to a pole? Or is that just like a fucked up divorce kid thing?
I think that's an HR problem. I think maybe we should ask Eva.
Never mind. Don't answer that. You're completely right. You are 100% right. I'm crossing every line today. Stop. Eva, do not answer
did you
that.
ever have a role play fantasy?
Did you ever tie up children? What the fuck? Stop it, Christine. You can't ask that question. I feel like I've lost my damn mind today. I feel like I've really lost it. Like, should we wait another few days to record this episode? I don't think I can talk about this anymore.
Okay, shifting gears. There was another game. I don't remember what it was called, but it was something. It was with the same girl that would tie me up and force me to be Sprite.
You should check what she's up to today, because I can almost guarantee
she's still one of my best friends, and she's like as straight as an arrow, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
Are you sure?
Like you were doing some really gay shit. So like
maybe she was just getting it out of her system.
Maybe, if only it were that easy for me.
I know, right? That's the thing parents say, right? Like it's a phase. It was just
a phase. I remember we also I can't even get into that. There was a game we would play it. It was like also it was also kind of my favorite game because like you would like sit on each other's laps and like try to flirt with each other. And like, literally,
now
just
we're one-upping each other's stories. Did all kids do this? Do all kids do like weird, fucked up stuff like this? I think maybe it's normal. I don't know.
We were like 10, and like the whole thing was like you had to ask a certain question or something. I don't remember what it was. It was I don't remember the question, but you would like sit on each other's laps in a circle, and you would try to you try to flirt until the other one got uncomfortable, and then you won. It was like super weird. But the joke was, she didn't know I had a crush on her, and her flirting was, I definitely was very comfortable with it. So,
Oh, you were
I
like,
won.
sorry, I'm never gonna lose, baby. Keep
So
going.
I won. But yeah, it was just such a weird game. I don't know why. I don't know where that came from, but
Okay, I'm sorry to say, I do have an update. Eva
what?
said, I did let my sister and friend lock me in the dog cage part of the car.
Oh my god. Oh man. Okay. You know what? I'm glad you voluntarily gave us some information, Eva, because I was a little curious. But
Please, for the record, I did not elicit this information forcefully.
everything's alleged. I don't know. Okay, so anyway, so far we played fucked up games. So far we're very similar to VTK. I don't
I
like
know
that.
and that's okay. And I know maybe it comes off as like in poor taste to discuss and laugh about that as we're talking about the story, but it really does go to show, and I feel like this is definitely a pattern of this whole episode, is that, which we briefly discussed last time when Siri shut us down, that people like to dehumanize him in a lot of instances that I've listened to, podcasts or documentaries. People have like an inclination, which is totally understandable, but an inclination to turn him into like this inhuman monster creature that we could never relate to, that we could never understand. And one of the documentaries that I watch, or docuseries, I guess, the woman who is she's like a forensic profiler, I believe, forensic psychologist, and she interviews Dennis Rader, and she's gotten a lot of flack for this because, like we said, all he wants is to get his own story out there, and he loves to be heard. And so it is a little bit like iffy that he's narrating basically this whole docuseries. But she makes a very, good point to say, the reason I do this is because I want to go back and see what this person who's done these atrocious things was like as a kid, so maybe over time we can start to recognize these signs. We can act before things get so out of hand and so many people are killed and hurt. And it's interesting because clearly we do have similarities, as I think most people would hope they have zero similarities with Dennis Rader. But that's part of why it's so scary, is that this is a person you can relate to. This is a person who did similar childhood things as us. This is a person who could be your dad, your neighbor, your I don't know, accountant, whatever.
It's like the worst part of true crime is that even the biggest monster in some way is human. Like there's,
unfortunately, right? Like, yeah, exactly. We don't
like, you don't want to relate to them, but even if it's something as small as like you both have the same favorite ice cream flavor, like there is a human part to each of these people, which maybe I think it's uncomfortable because we so desperately don't want to have any way to relate to a person like this. And yet these people do have families. There are people who are collateral damage, and them doing this kind of these awful atrocities. There's people on the other side who you do want to empathize for that happen to know him, and so
exactly, and who didn't realize. And you've made this point in previous episodes too, that like you'd like to think that you'd be able to spot somebody from a mile away, somebody so sick in the head, somebody who did such terrible things. But people like this are so good at compartmentalizing, at separating their, day-to-day, face-to-face version of themselves, or even at home with family, that his own family never knew what he was doing behind the scenes and how extreme it was. So yeah, I just feel like when we joke about, oh, haha, we did stuff like that too, it's like, well, a lot of kids probably do. It's probably pretty normal. It's just that he recalls it in such a different light, saying like, that is when I realized, this was a fetish. And guess what? A lot of people have fetishes. A lot of people have exactly this fetish, being tied up, and it doesn't turn into what it does in this story. So, there's just so many elements of like, this is a normal guy until it's not, until he takes things so far that we can't relate.
I think what I find fascinating in that type of, I guess, research that she's doing is, where does the nuance become criminal, or like
where's the red flag almost?
Because like you said, a lot of people tie each other up as kids and realize that they've got a thing there, and that's not criminal for anybody else. So like,
No.
where was the line, or what was it in
What was like the
his?
too far? What was the line where it said it should set off alarm bells? You know, what's
Yeah.
the sign where it's like, oh, this is
And
not just normal
we-
kids play?
We probably will never know.
Yeah, we probably will never know. So that's just kind of insight into where this began for him. But of course, as we know, it just progressed and progressed and got a lot worse. But otherwise, he had a pretty normal, quote unquote, for, you know, the as far as serial killers are concerned, a relatively normal childhood. There is another formative moment that he does recall, and I think this one is probably a little more unique and a little more telling. But at one point, he explains that his mother's ring, so she was vacuuming under the couch, and her ring got caught on a spring underneath the couch. And she was stuck, and she kind of panicked because she couldn't reach her hand with her other hand. And so she shouted at him, "Go get help." And Dennis saw her face. This person his mother, who is usually in charge, who usually, is his superior, is now trapped and needs his help. And that cemented this response in his mind. He froze. He felt feelings of arousal. He said he realized that her being, trapped and struggling was really attractive to him, really sexually arousing. And this terror and her terror and his control was really intoxicating. And he did ultimately break from this trance and run to his grandma's house next door to get help, but that kind of stuck in his mind. And as an example of some more, when he basically took these feelings and turned them into action items, he had in 5th grade a beef
Okay.
not beef, a beef with a 5th grade teacher. And he said, she just had this complex and she liked to push me around. So he went to her house, this is in 5th grade, and began watching her through the windows.
Oh my.
Yeah, and this for a little bit was enough, but eventually he needed more. So one day he brought a rope with him and he tied himself up to the trellis as he watched her, and that was the first time he ever came to completion.
Understood.
And that is, by the way, I need to mention this now because I want to get it out of the way and never discuss it again. He called his completion, he called it Sparky Big Time.
Of all the things you could call it, that's not the most clever.
It's just fucking gross and stupid because, like, get over yourself. Like, he did this through his whole, I'm not talking in 5th grade, by the way, people. I'm talking like as a grown-ass adult, he would talk about it and call it Sparky Big Time. And it's like, get it together, fucking guy.
Like, I don't understand people naming things, but if you're gonna do it, it better be fucking worth it. And like that,
That's not, right?
It's not even a little good.
Like, what are we supposed to do? Be like, good one, Like, what's the goal here? I don't know.
Like, here I go fake knee slapping. Like that is just
har. It's just gross. Yeah. So people thought of Dennis. They didn't obviously know these things about him, or I imagine these are the massive red flags we would have looked out for. But people, I answered that question that FBI psychologist was asking. But people typically, what's too far? Tying yourself to your teacher's trellis to ejaculate on the floor. Yeah, that's probably too
actually
far.
Yeah. Very quickly we figured out that something had already not clicked right around there.
Exactly. So people typically thought of Dennis as just like an average kid, and that ended up being almost his superpower because people really couldn't imagine that he, this kind of humdrum guy, could be something so monstrous behind the scenes. So he lived in Wichita, or the Wichita area at least, for his whole life except for 4 years, 1966 to 70, when he served in the Air Force. And after he came home from the Air Force, he quickly found the woman he was going to marry. Her name was Paula, and they met at church. They were actually, by all accounts, pretty happy together, at least, for a couple in that time period who maybe didn't know all the secrets of the other partner. But they seemed pretty happy. He treated her well, quote unquote. And he to this day claims, I was a good father and a good spouse. And like, he fails to see that treating someone well And then doing all these other things outside the home doesn't make you, like, you're still a shitty father because now you're putting your children through
Right.
what you did outside. Like,
He's
it
not
doesn't.
extrapolating his
Yes.
what
Yeah.
his like the cause and effect of his
Yeah, you
actions.
can't. He just doesn't see that. He like considers them completely separate.
He's
And
like,
so,
well, I
mean,
made her dino chicken nuggets.
yeah,
so
exactly. So how bad could I be? And it's like, you fucker, very bad. And your family does not like you anymore because of that, you know? And he just can't understand it. So in any case, Paula and Dennis seemed pretty happy together. Dennis continued to live a pretty quiet, typical Midwestern life. It seemed pretty damn normal to his friends and family. But of course, as we know now, Dennis was really living an insidious double life that not even his own wife, Paula, suspected. So early in their marriage, he was already breaking into and entering people's houses. And the catalyst for that was getting laid off from his dream job. He got a job at Cessna, the airplane company, and he loved it. But after only a short while, he was laid off. And he's not sure why to this day. But for some reason, he uses that as sort of an excuse or a reason as to why he started breaking into people's houses, like out of anger and frustration. He took it out on women who had
okay.
nothing to do with him losing his job. But for some reason, it gave him a thrill of power and control to invade someone else's space, steal from them. They wouldn't know he was there. He got off on that. But of course, that would not be enough, you know, after a certain amount of time. So in January 1974, 28-year-old Dennis made the leap, and boy was it a leap, from burglary to murder. One day, while driving his wife Paula to work, Dennis spotted 34-year-old Julie Otero outside with one of her children. The Oteros were a family of 7, including parents Joseph and Julie and their 5 children. And they had just moved to Wichita 6 months earlier. Joseph Otero, the father, was outgoing, friendly, fun-loving. Julie was known as a loving parent. She was described as a mother, first and foremost, who prioritized and doted on her children. And looking at her, Dennis said, that's her. That's my first victim. He was also, unfortunately, particularly interested in 11-year-old Josephine, their daughter. And he later explained that he was, quote, attracted to Hispanic women with their dark skin, hair, and eyes. And all the fucked uppery aside, this is also a child, an 11-year-old. So, like, women doesn't apply here. But, you know, all of that just to give you an idea of, like, how his own fucked up mind works. So he spent 2 months stalking Julie and getting to know her routine. And finally, on January 15th, 1974, he made his move. Now, I'm going to tell you his plan because, let's just say, things did not go according to his original plan.
Okay.
So his plan was to attack both Julie and Josephine because he knew when they would be home. According to the jailhouse interviews used for the docuseries I was referencing earlier, which is called BTK Confessions of a Serial Killer, and I want to point out again to take anything that comes out of his mouth with a grain of salt because he loves to hear himself talk. He loves to create his own narrative. But according to his own words, his plan was to kidnap Julie, take her out to his family's barn, and basically set up a sort of torture shed where he could, you know, do perverted, horrible things to her and then ultimately hang her. This was his plan.
Oh my God. Jesus.
I know.
Okay.
I know. And in fact, he'd actually been working on something called his Silo of Terror.
Oh my God. What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. I hate to do this to you, Em, but I'm gonna. I have a blueprint, a hand-drawn blueprint.
Oh. Okay, I do want to see it out of morbid curiosity, but I also
know,
have the chills at the same time.
Ooh, I know. It's pretty horrific. Here's one picture of it.
Oh my God. Well, it's pretty fucking detailed.
Yes.
Wow. That's a real whole layout. Oh my God.
He really thought of himself as some sort of fucking creative genius, like biggest eye roll of all time accompanying that, because he is proud of this shit. And it's like, what are you proud of? This is so fucked up. Like, get a hobby.
Well, he did get a hobby.
I guess so. Get a better
different
one.
hobby. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't clear enough. But basically, this silo of terror, he had these blueprints, and he used colored pencil to color code them. Like, it's just fucking stupid. But this was his big plan. It never came to fruition, thank God. But he'd had this plan in his mind where he would create a silo of terror, and it had nooses and one of those medieval torture wheels inside of it in his mind. Not really.
Mm.
And the wildest part to me, which is something I hadn't realized about him, is he had this fantasy where he fantasized about women being strapped to a train track and getting run over by a train.
Oh my, Jesus Christ.
And this was apparently part of the blueprint of his fucking
He was gonna
silo. Put a
fucking-
train in there?
Sorry, the mountain of tasks it would take to get
what
a train
are
in
you
there.
talking about?
How do you stop the train fast enough that it doesn't crash into the other side of the house, of the silo?
Like, isn't a silo tall and thin? Like, is it? I don't understand. Like, I don't
is
understand.
it just on a continuous track, like around one of those Christmas villages, and you just put people on there?
In a circle? Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, I know like the logistics are wild, but
If you
that's
zoom
also
in,
so
which
fucked up.
which I'd recommend you don't do, but I'm going to make you do anyway. If
Okay.
you zoom in, you can
Mhm.
see the train up top to the right.
That's a train.
that's a
I was
train.
wondering what that was. I thought it was like a
Mhm.
clock tower or something.
It
but yeah.
does look like a clock tower, but it is a full-ass train. And
The fact that he was trying to
was-
build a train station
what are
as a
you
hobby is
That's how
for-
highly
for
he thought of
torture.
himself. Right? He's like, I worked at Cessna for 2 minutes. I can build a train. Okay,
yeah.
sir.
I'm an engineer. Not only can I build the tracks, the foundation to put a train on, and the train, and like first of all, and also, how are you going to get a train in there without like the town realizing there's a
You're
fucking
like,
train
hey,
somewhere?
where did our train go?
It's like, yeah.
you.
I mean, like the amount of questions I would have is actually could be its own podcast. But
And exactly. And to hear, that's what's so frustrating too, is like to hear him talk about it in this docuseries where he's like so proud. And of course it's sickening because you're like, this fucking guy getting off on telling the story. But like, there's something about hearing him talk about it and you're like, wow, he's really fucking delusional enough to think
Fully.
he can put a train inside a silo. Like, he fully is proud of this idea. He just thinks it's a fucking great idea. And
where was the silo gonna be? Because a neighbor would hear a train through the wall, like
a train that moves 5 feet or 10 feet or however big,
and also stops immediately, like so that it doesn't crash into their other apartment. Like it makes no fucking sense. Delusional is the perfect word.
delusional.
Perfect word.
And to this day thinks that it's such a great idea, which is like, wow, he really has not picked up on anything.
I feel like I don't have any reference to point at, but I like that because he drew a blueprint of it, he thinks he's had everyone fooled. Like, all the other questions don't matter. He's like, well, I sketched it, so I don't know what you're confused about.
Yeah, I used colored pencil to color code different levels of the silo.
train looks like a clock tower. You saw it. So
you saw it, right? We all saw it. Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. It's like he suddenly thinks he's some sort of fucking mastermind, and it's like, okay, guy. So anyway, we're back to January 15th. I tell you that to tell you this is what his quote unquote grand scheme was for Julie.
Okay.
This is what he wanted to do.
I think we were all safe from that plan, but
That
okay.
plan was probably never going to happen. Exactly. So January 15th, 1974, Dennis climbs over the back fence of the Otero's property, and he's wearing his Air Force parka. The pockets are filled with bindings and various weapons. He is really nervous because this is his first murder, his first kill. So he creeps through the backyard and he cuts the phone line, which becomes part of his MO. That's when he notices dog prints, and he had not planned for the family to have a dog. And he almost backed out at this point, which is like gut-wrenching because we were this close to not even having this whole occurrence happen. But he almost backed out, almost. Instead, when someone opened the back door to let the dog out, Dennis jumped into action and said, "This is my moment." So he walked through the back door, and he caught Julie Otero by surprise as she made sandwiches in the kitchen. But it was not just Julie at home. There was also the youngest child, 9-year-old Joseph Jr., or Joey, who was also there, in addition to Julie and Josephine, who he expected. And then in walks Mr. Joseph Otero himself, the father of the family, who's supposed to be at work. according to BTK Dennis's plans. Apparently, Dennis had not done as much research as he thought he had, or he wasn't as good at it, shocker, as he thought he was, because it turns out Joseph Otero had actually broken a few ribs at work, and he was at home recovering on a sort of workers' comp situation. And so he's suddenly, instead of 2 people, a woman and a child, he's now confronted with 4. So he's totally off his game already, right? And Joseph Otero, of course, is completely startled. I want to also remind everybody, this is occurring in the morning. This is like 8 a.m. So they're just, the kids just left for school. The older kids just left for school. They're just having a normal morning, let the dog out. Suddenly there's a man in their kitchen. And Joseph Otero thought at first this was a prank set up by his brother.
Oh shit. What kind of pranks are his brother?
I know. I was like, oh, I wonder. I don't want to know what other pranks you guys have pulled on each other.
But
I mean,
stranger in my house. Gee, but I also understand wanting to rationalize what the fuck's going on.
I think because I thought about that a lot. It must be shock, right? It's like, how else do you?
Yeah.
Why else at 8:15 in the morning is some rando man, some white bread looking dude just standing in your kitchen saying, I'm here to rob you, He thought, well, maybe my brother set up this fucked up prank. But of course, then Dennis shows him his gun, and Joseph realized immediately this was no prank. Dennis told the Oteros he meant them no harm, and he only needed money and a few provisions. So Joseph said, okay, you can have whatever you wanted. You can even have our car, although there's no gas in it. And of course, this was all a total fabrication. Dennis planned to kill them from day one. He was never just planning to get food and money and leave. But Dennis got off on making people feel safe with him when he knew full well they were anything but safe with him. And he also got off on being able to subdue people like this, sort of make them feel at ease. Like if you cooperate, everything will be fine,
Right.
So the family, of course, thinking they would be spared if they did cooperate, let Dennis tie them up with a rope he had brought. He led them into the bedroom where Julie and Josie sat on the bed and Joseph and Joey sat on the floor. And according to his rendition, at least, at one point, the bonds were uncomfortably tight, so he loosened them. He even gave Joseph a pillow to alleviate some of the pain in his ribs because he was kind of laying uncomfortably. And he later explained to the judge, I'm not a bad guy. I care for people. I'm trying to comfort them as much as I could. I have concerns for people, and I hadn't really crossed that path yet where I was going to kill the people yet, so I was still in concern mode. I call bullshit, by the way. I call fucking bullshit, of course, immediately on all of it.
Also, nothing says a narcissist more than oh, I went into concern mode. There's no concern mode.
That's not a thing. You're right. Yeah, exactly.
The fact that you think you have to enter a manual mode is crazy. That's
exactly and that's something you just enter and exit on command. That's a great point.
That's a very clear symptom of not having emotions.
Yeah, exactly. He just can't understand what anybody else means, because there were questions later about other crimes he committed where the forensic psychologist asks, weren't you concerned about the kids? Not in this case, a different story. And he said, no, they were old enough to take care of themselves.
Oh,
and it's God. What? That's not. No,
Christine, you don't understand. He hadn't entered concern mode.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We forgot to turn the switch.
You're so stupid, Christine.
I'm so stupid. Right.
I know.
So it's just really sinister, and it gives you kind of an insight into how he thinks he's a good guy, even though he's about to do some of the most unspeakable acts that have fucking haunted me for months. So once he has tied these people up and he's holding them at gunpoint, he claims the realization dawned on him that, oh, wait, they've seen my face. I'm not wearing a mask, so I have to kill all of them. They have to die. Otherwise, I'm screwed. My speculation, which, again, is full speculation, but is just how I feel after reading this 8 million times, is that I think he, as soon as he walked in, saw them all, had the plan to kill them. I don't think he was going to spare them. I don't think he would have done differently if he was wearing a mask. I think he's trying to make himself look, quote unquote, good in his own fucked up way by
Well,
saying,
he went
"Oh, I
into
had to
concern
kill
mode for
them."
himself.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just like I had to kill them because how else would I get away with it? I'm not a bad guy. Like
And
in his
you know him with the train. He's all about logistics. So
logistics.
it's like
He's got a blueprint
you're
for
a witness
everything.
now. So the strategy has changed.
Everybody understands, he says. Fucking lunatic. So, as he later described to the judge, when he came to that realization, and this is blood chilling, he, quote, made a decision to go ahead and put them all down.
Oh. Whoa.
Yeah. And again, he sees them as others, as animals, as not humans, as
Mm-hmm.
not children. He just, I'm going to put them down. And he uses that terminology a lot, which is so disturbing. So this is the part, all of the next few paragraphs are extremely disturbing and pretty graphic, folks. So please, be kind to yourself, skip forward if you'd like. But here we go. So Rader placed a plastic bag over Joseph's head and tightened it. He then strangled Julie, later commenting that he didn't realize how hard it was to strangle a person as he had only ever killed cats before.
Oh my God.
As an example, he claimed he thought he'd strangled both Mrs. Otero and Josephine, the 11-year-old, to death, but they both later came to, and he had to strangle them again, essentially.
Oh.
Yeah.
My God.
So Joseph, the father, managed to chew a hole through the plastic bag that was over his head. So Dennis added a t-shirt and another plastic bag.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
That ultimately killed him. So Dennis then went after Joseph Jr. or Joey next. He placed a plastic bag over Joey's head and strangled him as well. There was a chair found in the room, which police assumed was used by the killer to sit and watch as Joey suffocated to death. But for whatever reason, and this is kind of a pattern with him, Dennis later claimed he was only using that chair when he was subduing Joey, and he left. He didn't sit and watch Joey die because that
would be
far.
cruel.
Right?
That would be cruel.
That's where the mindset is so fucked up. He says I wouldn't have done that. No, I didn't do that. Yes, I did tie a plastic bag around a child's head and kill him, but no, I wouldn't sit there and watch. So I don't even know what is to believe because I don't believe a fucking word out of this idiot's mouth. But he really does think like that makes sense to people. I don't think I even mentioned this anywhere in my notes, so I'll just throw it in here as well. He also claims that he never raped a woman because that would be, in his own words, going too far.
Mm-hmm.
So he's, I know, it's just like, oh, okay. So so we're supposed to think you have some sense of decency then, I guess, because you won't. And he said even serial killers have a line they won't cross. You're murdering people's children in the most gruesome, brutal way, but rape is too far. You know,
I wish I could ask what his like definition of cruel is, because for him, because some things he's like, oh, I wouldn't do that, but it's like, okay, but there's other things that you're clearly capable and willing of, like,
and don't even find that disturbing.
Yes,
you know?
like where's your line? Where's your own line with like what's
rape?
fucked up?
That's his own line. He said he would never cross that line. Too far.
That's it. Just
That's
that
it.
one. Okay.
Just that one. Yeah.
Okay. That's why
So-
R isn't in his name, I guess. It's just BTK.
Right. Exactly. He's like, that would be uncouth. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, sure, whatever you say. So the last to die was Josephine. This, again, please fast forward a few times if you are anybody but Em and Eva and our editor, Jack, because I'm so sorry, but they have to hear this. But yeah, folks, please fast forward a few times if you don't want to hear this part. It's pretty fucking upsetting. Dennis took a barely conscious Josephine down to the basement, and he decided he first asked if she had a camera, if her family had a camera in the house, because he wanted to take some photos of her. She said, no, we don't have a camera. So he sets up a rope that he hangs from a pipe in the basement, and he is getting her set up to hang her from the rope. And her last words are to ask him, what's going to happen to me? And Dennis calmly told her, well, honey, you're going to be in heaven with the rest of your family.
Oh.
He then hanged her from the pipe and pulled her underwear down, and her body was later found with semen on and around it.
Oh, so wait, he's not into rape, but
But that's
But he-
okay.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's it's so there's these imaginary lines he creates make no fucking sense.
Mm.
So, folks, the really gruesome details are over. It's still obviously fucked up, but you can start listening again as far as the graphic details.
Yeah.
So afterwards, Rader cleaned up. He took the family's radio and their car, which was pretty much out of gas, and he parked it in a parking lot and threw the keys onto the roof of the store. The two youngest Otero siblings got home first, and when the oldest, Charlie, arrived, he noticed his dog Lucky in the backyard, which was not normal. The front door was locked, which was also unusual, so he went through the back, and he saw a chaotic mess in the kitchen, and his mother was very tidy, kept a very clean house, and also was always waiting with open arms at the front door when he got home from school, so he knew something was immediately wrong. Then he heard his younger siblings calling to him, saying something to the effect of, "Come quick, Mom and Dad are playing a mean trick on us."
Oh God. What is with the tricks and the pranks?
I know. And I just
Ugh.
wonder if that's just a way of like telling yourself this isn't real. Like
Like
almost
desperately in denial. Yeah.
in denial. Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. And so he finds his parents strangled in their rooms.
Oh
He
my
said they
God.
didn't even look like themselves anymore just
Oh.
because of the means of death. He said in an interview, "You could smell death. You could smell fear. I can still smell fear."
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I know. It like
Oh
it's
wow.
chilling.
Oh my God.
His sister Carmen later testified that she tried to cut through her mom's bloody gag with a pair of nail clippers because she didn't know how to get it off her face. So Charlie also said years later when he described this day, and you can just see the survivors, the ones that Dennis said will be fine because they're old enough to take care of themselves. They're so fucked up about this whole thing, obviously. And he explained, "My heart just broke that day. It felt like somebody had ripped my chest wide open and pulled my heart out. My life changed instantly." So the phone line had been cut. So they ran to a neighbor's house to call the police. And when they were at the station, the surviving children begged police to protect Joey and Josie from going back to the house because they didn't realize Joey and Josie were both already dead and in the house. They only knew about their parents. So the police and a pastor had to come tell Charlie that both of his youngest siblings had been found in the house and had been killed as well.
Jesus.
So Charlie said at the very least he was grateful he hadn't discovered them because he said he didn't know if he'd been able to handle it himself if he had seen that with his own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So back at the crime scene, police noted that nothing of value seemed to have been stolen. Plus, the thermostat had been turned up really high. And Dennis later explained that he turned the temperature up really high because he wanted to mess up their body heat temperatures and the decomposition, which he read in a True Detective magazine.
Oh, Law and Order over here. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good one. So he learned a lot of his quote unquote ideas and tricks from crime scene magazines, from, those kind of creepy.
I like how that makes him an expert when like we've read all that. So are we experts? Like
Exactly.
No?
And he just has that complex where he knows what he's doing.
Mhm.
Not. So he also did some really bizarre stuff at crime scenes that we didn't know about until later when he explained them after he'd been caught. Like he would get a water glass out of the cabinet, drink a glass of water, then wash it and put it back in the cupboard. And he got all like hot and heavy over it because he
Ew.
was like, they'll never know that I use their water cup.
Like
and
his
put it
own like
back.
in control. It's like a moment for
Yeah.
himself of like I'm violating. It feels violating in a very intimate way.
Yes, intimate.
Where like in times of a serial killer in your home, I would imagine you're prioritizing which things would be the most
Right.
violating, like hurting your body, hurting someone you love. But like the the tiny things you don't even have time to think about them violating, like the inside of your cabinet and knowing like
Ugh.
your personal tchotchkes and the things
Going
that
through
you
your stuff, taking
touching your
things.
things. Like you can never touch that cup again without thinking about him drinking out of it, you know?
Yeah, and that was his own little secret that he got off on. He had that. I guess it's like a feeling of like omniscience. Like he's like, I know I did
Oh,
this.
yeah.
No one else
Like a
knows.
god
And
complex? Is that
a
what you're
god.
talking about?
Wow, interesting.
A literal
Interesting.
narcissist.
Yeah. So, of course, these murders absolutely shook the town of Wichita. This is a relatively large city, but the suburbs had a small town feeling. People did not lock their doors. This was Kansas in the 70s, People felt safe for the most part. And police even thought this Otero murder could be a drug-related hit because who the fuck would kill two children in such like an execution way? Like,
And for no
they were
reason. Like
for no
not
reason.
that there's ever a reason to kill a kid, but you know what I mean? Like there's no
But yeah,
storyline that
they thought
fills
maybe
this.
there has to be some sort of reason, like a drug hit or
Yeah.
something gone wrong with the parents and a relationship with someone else, and they were completely wrong, but they just could not fathom why else somebody would do this. And serial killer, the term was pretty brand new. I think it came out in 1974 for the first time. It was sort of referenced as terminology. And so the notion of having this deranged murderer on the loose was like unfathomable for most people, like day to day, let alone someone who killed entire families at once. And remember, he jumped from killing 0 people to killing 4. This was like a massive leap.
Mm-hmm.
So from the outside, it looked like a total just deranged nutcase running around, and nobody knew who it was. Nobody knew why they were doing it. However, some people actually got a sense of familiarity with. Oh, sorry, hold on. Hello? Hello?
Girl,
Okay.
was that Harry?
Someone just knocked on my door. I'm texting them.
That
scared the shit out of me.
It's not Blaze.
It wasn't even a
guarantee
knock.
you.
It was tap, 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 tap.
Ew, Christine. And it was
Ew,
loud
Blaze
enough
said-
that
Blaze said he's not up here. Ew.
say Harry, thank you, but no thank you.
Okay, I'm good right now. If you're Juniper or Harry, I'm busy right now. Thank you.
Okay. But Moonshine can come in.
Moonshine will find a way in. He doesn't need my permission. So, for other people who witnessed the news of this crime, there was a sense of familiarity about it. And that's because Dennis's crimes eerily mirrored the Clutter family murders, which also took place in Kansas in 1959 in Holcomb, Kansas. And if you're not familiar, this is the mass murder that inspired Truman Capote's In Cold Blood. So Dennis, of course, had been inspired, quote unquote, by the Clutter family murder. He had heard about it on the way to high school when he was 15. And he was in his, this is so stupid, his dad's coworker's daughter's car. She carpooled with him to school, and she drove him to school, and he had a crush on her.
Okay.
So he's sitting there next to her in the passenger seat. She's wearing a skirt. This is him describing it. And he hears the news of the Clutter family murders back in 1959. And hearing that story on the radio, sitting next to this girl he had a crush on who's wearing a skirt, it was like seared into his mind. And so as he's older, he's almost like replaying these quote unquote inspirational,
well,
the things
the
that
fact that he's overlapped murder and sex with each other, or like murder and arousal,
Yeah, exactly. And so that they sort of mirrored each other, and he was struck by the fact that the Clutter family had been tied up with rope. And of course, that especially piqued his interest. And interestingly, remember I mentioned he stole the family's car and the radio from their house? The 2 men that murdered the Clutter family also took a radio from their home.
Oh, okay. So
he's like playing this weird.
It's like a copycat, not like an homage.
Yeah, yeah. And he really thinks he's like a genius, but everything he does is just copied off other people. And not that I'm giving them credit either, but it's like he just gives himself way too much fucking credit for being some sort of mastermind, So many people at this point truly felt vulnerable for the first time ever. Started locking their doors for the first time ever. There was panic in town. People wanted security systems for their houses, and thankfully Wichita had just the guy, because Dennis started working for the ADT security company that same year. Well, that's just fucking great.
Well, that's perfect, not the perfect crime, the perfect setup for a crime.
Yeah, it's almost like if you read that in a book, you'd be like, well, that's fucking too obvious, you know?
Yeah, that's like a Hallmark movie storyline.
It feels too easy.
Or Lifetime or
of
whatever.
a storyline. Yeah. So he essentially worked as a supervisor, and he would oversee the installation of these security systems at people's houses. So, of course, he now had intimate knowledge of different houses' blueprints, how they were secured, how he could bypass them. And he didn't necessarily bypass them. He just liked to know that he could if he wanted to. You know?
The power. Yeah.
The power, the omniscience, like just knowing in his own mind that he could do it if he wanted. He claimed later that during these installations, he often snuck through the family's things, and like you said, intimate violations, went through their drawers, took home panties, took home stuff out of their bathrooms. He just liked that feeling of power. And what was especially disturbing, as we've discussed many times now, was his ability to compartmentalize. You know, he's the overseer, he's the supervisor at this job, and everyone just thinks he's just a normal dude, right? Like, they don't know he's going in and stealing underwear, putting them in his pocket and taking them home. This compartmentalization, he actually had a separate word for it, because of course he did. He called it cubing. Cubing. And he was the cube.
What in the fuck? This is the most delusional man I've ever heard in my life.
So delusional.
What made him the cube? What's that mean?
Literally the only explanation I could find, which I think is because it's the only explanation he could give, is that he was a cube and he could switch to different faces of the cube.
Oh, okay. So this is his way of describing like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing?
Yes,
like,
which he also used to describe it. Again,
okay,
like
he would switch personalities, like the faces.
He could switch, like he could with a roll of the die, or you know, he could switch to concern mode, or he could switch his on and off. You know, his creepy
What happens
behavior.
when you put the cube point on one finger and a point on another finger? You just spin it. Like then what happens?
Oh God, I hope he just
topsy turvy all the way down.
Motion sick. I don't know. I have no idea, because I think he didn't put much thought into it. Besides.
No.
I know. Hard to believe. Also, Juniper's now meowing like a fucking maniac. So it is him. I'm going to let him in. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Otherwise, he will just scream the entire time.
At least it's not Walt.
I feel like Harry's like, hey, leave me out of it. I would never disturb you while you're recording.
I feel like Walt is like, I have not been there in a long time. Why am I still even being mentioned? Yeah.
He's like, well, you think I went to Kentucky with you?
He's like, no thanks. No thanks. I've been there as the vagabond.
Yeah. I'm a vagabond, not an idiot.
Yeah.
So anyway, he has this cubing fucking explanation for how he's able to hold a job, make people think he's relatively normal. That being said, though, it's not the whole truth, because people actually did notice some of his darker tendencies. Not maybe people in his own family, but people that he interacted with on a day-to-day basis. So eventually he and his wife Paula, just to give some background, had a son and a daughter, Brian and Carrie. And his daughter later told interviewers that she had a happy, stable childhood, and she was really close with her dad, or she was really close with her grandparents, or at least she thought she was. She felt like he was loving and caring and a good, stable dad. And that just goes to show, again, like how compartmentalized this man was. I refuse to say cubing again because it's stupid. So I'm going to say the harder word to say, which is compartmentalized. So after killing one of his victims, this is just an example of his being so good at compartmentalizing. After killing one of his victims while on a Cub Scout trip, and I'll discuss that in part 2.
Okay.
This is just an example of how good he was at being said pillar of the community, because he's on the way back from this horrible, gruesome murder, and he has to change in a gas station bathroom back into his Cub Scout uniform because he's Cub Scout leader. and he's going back to sleep in the tent next to his son. So he stops at a gas station, a rest stop, to change his clothes, and he runs into a fucking state trooper. And the state trooper asks him, like, hey, what are you up to? Why are you out and about? And he says, can you tell me what you're up to tonight? And Dennis says, oh, well, I'm a Cub Scout leader. I am, out here with my son. I just, some bullshit. I had a headache. I needed to go get some Tylenol. And the fucking state trooper said, oh, right as rain. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh.
Let him go. No problem.
Okay.
He was that good at he had just murdered a woman like an hour earlier. Horrible, gruesome murder. And
he's just
pretend.
like, whatever. Just like,
He's
so.
like, don't mind me in the random rural gas station bathroom changing my clothes in the middle of the night.
I may be covered in blood, but you know what? I do have a headache. So which one are we going to take more seriously
Did I tell
right
you
now?
about the Tylenol?
Yeah.
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 So, of course, the state trooper just says, okay. And meanwhile, he has a fucking jewelry box in his car that he had stolen from the woman he had just murdered. And he knows if this trooper looks in his car and sees this item, he will probably be brought in for something, for questioning. But he is able to just fucking change his stupid cube up or whatever and pretend like he is just on his way back to see his son for the Cub Scout trip. State trooper says, all right, off you go.
Imagine
That's
that
how easy
state
it
trooper
was.
later when the story came out and he's like, motherfucker. Like, I
knew
can't believe
something
I missed
was
that.
up with that fucking guy.
Yeah.
Ugh, that must be deeply disturbing.
His boss was pissed for sure.
Oh, yeah. So, like I said, Carrie described a pretty ordinary childhood with her dad. She said she only caught a glimpse of his dark side once. One night at dinner, a family argument apparently got too heated, and Dennis jumped up and grabbed his son, Brian, by the neck as if to strangle him. And
Oh my God.
his son went like white as a sheet, and Dennis let go. And it was such a fast moment, but Carrie remembered it being so shocking and out of place that it just goes to show how unusual that kind of behavior was to see from him within his own family dynamic. Like, he's doing this in his head, he's like fantasizing about it, and he's doing it to other people, but to his family, that was shocking and seared into their memories.
It was like he hit it so well.
It was a one-time thing. Yeah.
And imagine what his son is thinking these days. Like, he's been strangled by BTK. Like,
I know. Yeah.
And he just has to live with that. That's what we were talking about earlier when it comes to like not wanting to humanize a killer, but like remembering that there's people on the other side of it. Like, he's got family members that now have to live with the fact that their dad is a fucking serial killer, and they've been strangled by him. And like, what does that mean? And how far away from fully snapping was he to dying?
Almost worse. Like, they've been like comforted and loved by him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like they've been like held by him, hugged by him. Like
they learned safety from him.
Yes. There's something so twisted where he can't even see that in his own head, In any case, that's just an example of how unusual it was for him to behave that way. And to this day, we do see him, and I've, sort of presented him as this sort of pillar of the community, but as I also alluded to, that's not really the whole truth, because people did have run-ins with him over the years. He, as you can probably guess, had a dangerous sense of superiority and entitlement, and he managed to get a local government job enforcing city ordinances, like little things, pet laws, trash regulations. And of course, he took this and it went straight to his head. Okay. It's like the cliche of the health inspector who takes his job way too seriously, like on Bob's Burgers, or, it's like such a cliche. Like, he has this like minor bit of power. Give him an inch and he'll go fucking 10 miles.
Right.
And to that end, he essentially held people to impossible standards. He used his position to harass and intimidate his neighbors, and he especially targeted single women, wouldn't you know it.
Mm-hmm.
He was known to only pass out dog-related citations to single women, and even would stare into their windows under the pretense of, quote, monitoring the neighborhood.
Ew.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, he thought he was being so slick. This is pretty fucked up, allegedly even had one woman's dog euthanized for absolutely no reason. just
Which-
because it was a power play and it was
I was going to say, I don't know why that hurt so much more, I guess, because it's a dog. But, like, the fact that, I mean, he was killing people for no reason. So what's the surprise that he'd kill a dog
what
for
should
no
stop
reason?
him? It's almost like this, he felt like gave him the authority to, and it did give him the authority to, because people were submitting complaints and they were just never looked into, right? So
Mm.
people were saying this guy is a fucking asshole. He's harassing women. And, it just never went anywhere. And
Wow.
that's what Dennis craved, of course, is this like power over people that they can do nothing about. Experts call him a power control killer, which is a type of killer that seeks opportunities to exert their power over other people for a thrill. I think he's probably the most obvious form of a power control killer I've heard of. So torturing and murdering his victims gave him the ultimate sense of control, especially because strangulation is such an intimate way to kill someone and gives sort of a sense of connection to the killer
Mm-hmm.
between them and their victim. So it was only about 4 months after the murder of the Otero family that Dennis targeted his next victim, and that was 21-year-old Katherine Bright. He spent about a month stalking her schedule, and on April 4th, 1974, he broke into her house and lay in wait for her to return home. And when she did return home, he was not expecting her to bring her 19-year-old brother, Kevin, with her. But
Oh,
that's
God.
exactly what happened.
Okay.
So Dennis comes out of his hiding spot with a gun and tells Katherine and her brother that he didn't want to hurt them. He just needed money and a car to get to New York. He then ordered Kevin to tie up Katherine and go to another room, where Kevin, who'd also been tied up, began to get out of his bindings and jumped for Dennis's gun. But unfortunately, Dennis managed to shoot Kevin in the head before Kevin could really fight back.
Oh, my God. Okay.
So Dennis leaves Kevin there, then goes to strangle Katherine, but she's fighting back with all her strength. And as he is trying to get her under control, under his own control, he hears Kevin moving around in the room
Kevin's
next
still
to him.
alive?
He's fucking alive. And so he goes back in and shoots him in the head again.
What?
Comes back. I know. Comes back
Okay.
to Katherine. This is what he's been planning all along, just to attack Katherine. So he's like, finally, I got this other guy out of the way.
Mhm.
He's strangling Katherine, and he hears Kevin fucking make a run for it. through
Mr.
the
Shot
fucking
in the
door.
head twice is still
Twice.
alive?
He's still alive, and he has played dead and then run for the door and escaped.
Oh my God. Has he's alive today?
He's alive. He's been interviewed. He suffered severe, nerve damage and that kind of thing, but he did serve, and of course, probably deep-seated trauma, obviously, but he is still alive.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So he goes running out the door, and Dennis knows, well, shit, because he, ever the victim, realizes, well, now I don't get to spend as much time here as I wanted. My
He's
plans
finally
are
in
all
concern
going to
mode.
shit.
Finally in concern
Right,
mode.
he's in concern mode for himself again. So he says, you know what? I did a dumb thing and I stabbed her because he said, I just knew I needed to kill her. So he stabbed her and later claimed, I didn't like to use a knife. I really didn't. As if we're supposed to suddenly feel bad for him, right?
Aw.
Fucking sicko.
Poor thing.
Poor thing. So outside, Kevin flags down some neighbors. They call paramedics, but unfortunately, after multiple emergency surgeries and blood transfusions, Katherine tragically passed away. Like I said, Kevin survived with permanent nerve damage, and he did give police a description of Dennis, and they made a composite sketch, which Dennis later said actually looked a lot like him, and he was really concerned about that. But it did not
Concern
lead
mode.
them. Concern mode, right. It's switching that thing on and off all day long.
He's Cuban, you know?
He's Cuban all over the place, but unfortunately did not lead them to Dennis. So it would be a while before investigators actually connected Katherine's murder to the Oteros, because totally different victims, totally different MO, different weapons, it just didn't seem to fit. Police took 3 other people into custody, thinking they were the ones who had killed Katherine. And this enraged Dennis because, as we know, Dennis loves fucking attention, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So he cannot stand someone else taking credit for his quote-unquote work.
Which
So-
like is still the craziest thing to me. I don't understand the narcissist serial killer. I need the attention, but also if I get the attention, I go to jail. So it's like,
Yeah.
well, so can't you find something else to get credit for
No.
where people are allowed
it's-
to pat you on the back? You know,
It's like their fatal flaw, you know, like they fly too close to the sun, so to speak, and
yeah.
it's their undoing. So, of course, he can't handle this. He can't stand it. So, in October, Dennis calls a reporter at the Wichita Eagle and tells them to go to the public library, and there they will find an engineering textbook. And inside the engineering textbook is a letter. And the letter read, I'm going to read just parts of it. I write this letter to you for the sake of the taxpayer. He's concerned for the taxpayer, as well as your time. Those 3 dude you have in custody are just talking to get publicity for the Otero murders. Oh, I think I misspoke earlier. I said that the 3 men were arrested for Catherine's murder. I meant for the Oteros, and that's what he was so pissed about.
Okay.
My bad.
Okay.
So, those 3 dude you have in custody are just talking to get publicity for the Otero murders. They know nothing at all. I did it by myself and no one's help. There has been no talk either. Let's put it straight. Then he goes on in graphic detail to describe the exact positions and circumstances of each of the family members' deaths, something only the killer would know. And after these graphic details, he went on, quote, purse contents south of the table, spilled drink in that area also, kids making lunches, door shade in red chair in the living room, Otero's watch missing, I needed one so I took it, runs good, thermostat turn down, car was dirty inside, out of gas. I'm sorry this happened to society, good luck with your hunting, yours truly guiltily. Okay.
Okay.
So
he definitely gave enough information to show that he was there. I also like
they
the
knew.
watch works good.
Works good. Okay.
Ugh. Thanks for that
Okay.
side comment no one cared for.
Exactly. Like, for what? He then added a PS, because he can't stop talking. P.S. Since sex criminals do not change their MO, or by nature cannot do so, I will not change mine. The code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them. BTK. You see me at it again, they will be on the next victim. So this is where he has named himself officially.
Okay.
And another part of his letter referred to this is a long ass letter, by the way, referred to a monster who took him over and drove him to kill. He called this power over him Factor X. This was essentially a way to compartmentalize or cube from the other side of him, like basically deny responsibility, saying like, no, that's not me. That's Factor X.
One of his cube faces is Factor X.
Basically, yes.
So now he's not only naming his whole persona as one shape, but he's also picking names for every character.
Picking and choosing, and like dumb names. Factor X. Okay. But basically this goes to like his desire to figure out why he is the way that he is. He has this like drive to figure out what Factor X really is, what caused it. Rhombus, the cube, whatever the fuck it's called. It's not me. It's Factor X. And so
okay.
Police
Rhombus.
decided not to release the letter to the public because they weren't quite sure yet what to make of this. They decided to wait a beat. They didn't want to send everyone off into another frenzy, so they
Sure.
waited a beat. And they didn't have any leads, so they were like, let's just give it a minute and, their advice was basically just be careful out there. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, because of the news of the Otero murders and the news of Catherine's murder, they didn't know necessarily there was a serial killer running around, but they didn't know that these crimes were happening. And so the demand for alarms and security systems, of course, just kept skyrocketing while fucking Dennis was on the job installing them for you. He knew all the floor plans. He knew what he was doing. He just fucking loved it. He loved being in that power position. And meanwhile, as he is drawing clients' floor plans, as he is telling himself, I could come in here and do whatever I wanted and they could do nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
He is fantasizing about what he calls his projects.
Okay.
So
and
this
those
is
are people? Are they people?
They're people.
Okay.
They're fucking people. Yeah, they're people. You're onto it. This is basically what he called his targets, his intended victims. And, you know, this is just another way for him to like dehumanize the people that he's targeting, right? But he would stalk them, he would learn their routines, and he would keep folders on their movements, folders on the blueprints of their house, even the ones that he never actually went through with and attacked. But he had folders on these people. And
like
he
open
actually,
cases.
Yes, he had like case files. Exactly. And some of the names for them were Project Piano, Project Green, Project Cookie. Like,
You know, he thought he fucking killed it with Project Cookie.
he thought he nailed it. And you know what? He actually explained it when he was asked why did you feel the need to name your projects? He explained, well, you know, people name their oil wells.
See, he fully objectifies them. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. He's like, you know, boats and oil wells, they have names. And I'm like, first of all, do they? Oil wells? I guess so. I didn't
Boats
know
do,
that.
but I had no idea
Boats
about
do.
oil wells.
Yeah. Apparently oil wells do too. And he thought, what a great idea. I'll do that to the people.
He was like, oh, well, sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but like, it's just so stupid of like, oh, well, boats have names. It's like, well, people have names. Like, you don't
that's
have
a great point. That's
you
a
don't
great
have to
fucking point, Em.
give
Wait, what
them
the fuck?
names. They
Wait a
already
second.
had it.
That's a great fucking point.
That's so stupid.
Oil wells have names. Yes, so do people. Idiot.
People already were named. Like, it's like
That's a great
it's like someone
fucking
going
point.
up to like the Titanic and then saying like, actually, this boat needs a name. It's like, bitch, she has one. What are you talking about?
She has one.
The Queen Mary could never. She would be like, I'm Mary, dumbass.
Nice fucking try. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So stupid.
That
Like,
would've been a
that's
great
also
comedic
more
break.
info on like his like narcissism of like, oh, well, that's not a name I want to give them. I have to
Yeah, he's
rename
like,
them.
no. I get to name that person, not their parents. It's like, Yeah, that would have been if that interviewer had said, well, people have names too, I would have lost my damn mind and been like, this is the greatest docuseries of all time. To
Be
just
like,
fucking
don't people
put him in his
have
place.
names?
That's a great point, Em. You know what? You nailed it. So Dennis has these projects. He even drives around during his shifts he brings one special project with him every day just to know he has it, right? Because
So like in case he gets bored, he's got something to do that day.
He's got something to look at. And he apparently talked to his projects throughout the day as he drove around town. Like he talked to, he's a sicko. So he stayed busy with his projects for a few years. Like he managed to lay low for a few years until March 1977. And that's when he decided to finally act on one of his projects. He tried a couple. He went to a few houses. He put on a suit. He tried to dress up real nice. And he walked
like you're in the 40s and you're about to go on a plane for the first time. Like,
I mean, yes, literally. He's like,
it's a
this is
big
an
event.
important day for me. And so he walked door to door. And I say door to door because in a particular neighborhood, he had several projects. So,
shit.
Yeah. And this neighborhood he liked because it was close to the freeway. So he tries one. Nobody answers the door. He's like, dag nabbit. I'll go to the next one. So he goes over to another door. Doesn't work out. Either nobody answers, wrong person. All of his little projects are falling apart. And that's when he just so happens to spot a little 6-year-old boy walking down the road. I know. It's just so fucking terrible. This little boy, his name is Steve Relford, and Steve's mom was in bed sick and had sent him down the road to get a can of soup from the store. So Dennis approached Steve, pretending to be a detective, and showed him a photograph and asked him if he recognized the woman and child in the photograph. We still don't know for sure who was in this photograph. All we know is that Steve said, no, sir, and continued home, unknowingly leading a killer straight to his house.
Okay.
So a few minutes later, Dennis knocks on the door, still posing as a detective, and Steve tells Dennis that his mom, 24-year-old Shirley, was sick in bed. So Dennis just fucking saunters on in. He turns off the television. He closes the blinds. This is when Shirley comes out of her bedroom, and Dennis pulls out a gun. He directs Shirley to put toys and blankets in the bathroom, and he locks the 3 children in the bathroom.
Oh. Okay.
Tragically, there is a gap in the door where Steve who's, again, 6 years old, is able to watch this entire situation unfold. So he watches as Dennis brutally murders his mother, and he can do nothing about it. He's just trapped in the bathroom. And of course, he's helpless, and he feels like he led this guy here, right?
Yeah, the
So
guilt. Oh my
the
God.
guilt of that, like, destroyed him later. So he watches through a gap in the door as Dennis ties his mother's feet and hands behind her back, lays her face down on the bed, puts a plastic bag over her head, ties a rope around her neck. And then, as the siblings are screaming and trying to get out, trying to bash through the window, the man just leaves. And his initial plan was to kill the children as well, but I think they were making so much of a ruckus, and this was close quarters with other apartments, that he was worried someone would catch on. So he just left. And Steve finally slammed into the door so many times he broke a hole in it and was able to get to his mother. He's a little 6-year-old boy, by the way, tiny.
Oh my God.
So he's finally able to get to his mother. Of course, it's too late. And he said that that image
Ugh.
is so permanently seared into its mind. And he said he just went down a dark path after this. He said there are times he just wishes he wasn't alive. There are times he just, I mean, it basically destroyed his life forever. Even when he talks about it to this day as a much, much older man.
Oh my God.
You can just see like how dark
It's
this has
changed
made
him.
his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Kevin, Catherine's brother earlier, they gave police a description, but the composite really led nowhere. And so Dennis was scot-free. In December of that same year, he struck again, and this time he spotted 25-year-old Nancy Fox while she walked outside to her mailbox, and she would become Project Fox Hunt. God.
Disgusting.
He also had an obsession with the number 3, and her name had 3 letters, and he had a fascination with words that sounded sort of like sex, and that's why he thought Fox was the perfect name for his next victim.
So this guy, like, I mean, you said delusional earlier, but every time you bring up something new, it, like, just really shows you how unwell this guy was. For there to, like, I don't know what the right word is, but it's for the people who, like, I mean, who are not well, is the jumping, like the creating your own conclusions and creating your own rules and thinking you have to follow them.
It's exactly. It's like seeing patterns, creating patterns where there are no patterns, and almost justifying what you're doing and believing and seeing by creating these patterns. Like if an address had the number 3 in it, which like many addresses have the number 3 in it. He thought it was a sign, and it was the perfect target of his. He just liked to feel like he was weaving this like web, you know, but in reality, he's just making shit up.
The irony of him thinking that he's like the smartest person in the room when he's going off of like Fox kind of sounds like sex. It's like you're thinking like a 3-year-old. What are you talking about?
Fox has 3 letters. My daughter can figure that out, right? Like that's not a fucking genius puzzle you've just solved.
Right.
But in his head, he's a fucking mastermind. So, you know, Project Fox Hunt, fucking disgusting. He studies Nancy's routine like he did with his other victims, but this time he went a little bit further with it. So with the holidays approaching, Nancy had actually picked up a seasonal job at the mall doing sort of like Christmas hours, and he would stop by her store repeatedly, posing as a shopper and asking her innocuous questions just because he could.
Just to like, can you imagine, like, you already have to work, like, and now there's like this fucking guy, like, let alone whether or not he's a serial killer, like, you're like, oh man, I don't.
You just had to
deal with this guy. Yeah,
you just had to be that fucking repeat obnoxious customer,
and you know that there's like something weird about him. You're like, this guy freaks me out. Yeah,
like why is he coming to my work so often? And then he
not buying anything.
Not buying anything, presumably, and then shows up in her fucking house a few days later.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he breaks into her house and waits for her to come home. And when he comes home, this is how he describes what's happening. He tells her he is a strange dude. Yeah, that's for sure.
Ding, ding, ding.
Fucking understatement of the century. Who just wanted to do some stuff to her and would then leave her alone, like some sex stuff. He said, I just want to do some freaky stuff. That's it.
I can't imagine somebody walking into a room and going, or walking into your house right now and going, I'm a weird guy, but I just want to do some stuff to you, and then I'll leave. Like that-
hello?
I can't even imagine. Like, he practiced that in front of a fucking mirror too,
Ugh.
and like that was the best he could come up with. That shows you how detached from humanity he is. From like just
complete detachment.
general-
He thinks like that's normal. That'll be fine.
Yeah. that this'll do it. Yeah.
And so he tells her that she's of course stuck. He has a gun. She's like, I don't know what the fuck to do. He chats with her for a bit. He even lets her have a cigarette. And finally, because she really feels like she has nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, she finally says, okay, let's get this over with so I can call the police. And she really thinks like he's just gonna leave her. And unfortunately, of course, that was never the plan. His plan was never for her to survive the attack. And so Dennis strangles Nancy to death in her bedroom and flees the scene. And because she lives alone, normally it may have been a few days before someone realized she was missing or discovered her remains. But Dennis just couldn't help himself. And on the way into work, he stops at a payphone and calls the crime in himself.
It's breathtaking how obsessed with himself he is.
Obsessed with himself. Yes. So he gives police Nancy's address and name and informs them they would find her murdered in her home. Police then play this call for the Fox family, but none of them recognize Dennis's voice, right? And so for a minute, they're kind of relieved, like at least this isn't someone we know,
Mm-hmm.
But then they're thinking, well, shit. But now it's this maniac, like this stranger who just is randomly targeting people. It could be anyone. And so, all that to say, he called it in himself on himself. And as for Nancy, her sister Beverly remembers Nancy as a loving, hardworking young woman. Her goal was to start a family one day. She was very independent and outgoing. She worked really hard, as we've already seen, with the multiple jobs to support herself. And as much as Dennis thought he was some sort of mastermind, the details of her life tend to be diminished because people are talking about him. That's just the way it is, unfortunately. And in January, so the following month, 1978, Dennis sent another letter to the Wichita Eagle. This time, it was a poem.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Dennis is a poet. Because, of course, he's not just a logistical engineering genius. He's also a creative mastermind.
Okay. I'm ready for Okay.
It was a poem.
Just hit me with it.
I'm just going to read the first line. Because this poem, sickeningly, was mocking the murder of Shirley, the mother of little Steve, who had found his mother. So he writes this. Yeah, because why the fuck not? He wants credit for it, so he writes a poem. And here's how it goes. Shirley locks, wilt thou be mine? That's all I'm going to read. Because fuck you, Dennis.
Let me guess. Is he a rhymer? Does he think it rhymes?
He rhymes, and like this is not even iambic pentameter, So, I don't know who he thinks he's fucking fooling.
Himself. He's like,
right.
He thinks that he's gonna be like up there with the big dogs in writing at some point. Like, he really thinks he's just the best at everything. He's the best at getting away with things. He's the best at writing. He's the best at killing. He's the best at strategizing. He's the best at fucking building and driving trains, I guess. Like,
he's really good at cops and robbers. He's good at all of it.
The only thing he can't do is be anything less than number one in his mind. That's like it for him.
Okay, but this is the best part. When he mailed this poem into the newspaper, thinking like they're gonna publish this and say, we found like the person who killed Shirley Vian. Nope. The mail clerk thought it was a Valentine's poem, and so they just he forwarded it to the classified ads, and they just printed it in the classifieds, which like enraged Dennis Rader.
That had to tear him up from the inside out.
Because he was like, that's not a Valentine poem. It's not Roses Are Red. It might as well be.
It's Goldilocks, or whatever it was.
It's like a confession to murder. And they're like, what a dumb Valentine. We'll put this in the classifieds.
You know what? I'm so glad whoever suggested that. I like to think that they actually did know what it was, and they were like, "No, we're gonna fucking
They're like,
humble his ass." Like,
"Mm-mm,
it's like,
you don't get that credit."
oh, I just, can we just remember him as the really bad poet just to piss him off?
Well,
Like
just
instead
wait
of
till you
BTK, not even Dennis. It's just like that guy who like wrote that really
who
terrible Valentine.
was like worse at poetry than like a fifth grade boy who's going through his emo phase. You know, like it's
Right.
just really bad.
Yeah.
So we're almost done with part one here. He's pissed off that his stupid poem didn't stir a reaction. So in February, he sends a letter to his favorite TV news station, Cake TV, Kake. And this time, his letter is a little more direct than his veiled Shirley Locke's poem. And in this
Mhm.
direct threat, he writes, "How many people do I have to kill before I get my name in the paper or some national attention?"
Oh, that's pretty damn direct. Okay.
That's pretty damn direct.
It doesn't
How
even
many
rhyme.
people do I have to kill? No, but it is iambic pentameter. No, it is not. It is not that either. How many people do I have to kill? Like, what a chilling thing to say, first of all.
And how bold. Like he's like that's a
Yes.
guarantee he doesn't think he'll ever get caught.
Exactly. He thinks like, oh, I can just keep playing this cat and mouse game and pushing the envelope further and further. And along with this letter, he includes some nicknames, okay? One of them being the Poetic Strangler. Okay, so you were fucking onto it. He tried. He really thought poetry could be his new moniker. Because after writing BTK, he said, you know what, maybe they didn't like my nickname. Maybe they didn't like BTK. Call me the Poetic Strangler.
There's few things worse than nicknaming yourself, but to have to
Yeah.
do it again because no one's taking you seriously.
Oh, it's so embarrassing.
That's
Like,
so
not that that's
cringe,
the
like-
point, right? But like, it
He's like,
just
oh,
makes
whoa,
him
this one's a slam dunk though. This one's gonna get you.
exactly.
Which like
Poetic.
that should let you know that he's so unhinged that like he thinks he's the best, and but he's all like he thinks he's the best even though he's clearly not the best at fucking naming himself, but he still thinks, oh well, the next one's gonna kill you.
Oh, you're
that was
gonna
bad-
love
bad
one
words,
of
bad
one of
words.
these are. Oh, sorry. You want to say it again?
Oh no, I just realized that I said kill ya, and I was like, oh, that's not the right phrase.
Oh yeah.
But then on top of that, like it's also like such a sad, insecure little boy thing of like, I just want you to like me. Like I just want you to like the name that I pick.
It is, and it's so transparent. Like we can all see how much attention you want.
Yeah, and how desperate you need any attention because no one's talking about you.
Exactly. And your poems suck. And so
They
the Poetic
suck.
Strangler, the Asphyxiator, the Garrote Phantom, the Bondage Strangler, the Wichita Hangman. He tried a few things.
Just imagine going to like the coffee shop and you're wondering what the guy next to you is writing in his tiny
Oh.
leathered book.
Oh, that's horrifying.
And it's just him writing the Asphyxiator with a little stick
like,
figure
"What's-
of him.
Ew, it's like, what's another word for strangle?
But what was it? The Groton Phantom? What was that?
The Garrote Phantom, which is a garrote, is that type of weapon where you have almost like a stick lever to like tighten a
Oh.
rope. Yeah, it's sick.
Oh, that's fucking
It's
dark.
it's pretty dark. So after this list of potential nicknames, finally the police were like, okay, we got to tell the public because this guy's just fucking ramping things up. So the police finally make an official statement to Wichita. There is a serial killer on the loose in Wichita. We have no leads, and he is going to kill again. And that is the end of part one of the BTK killer.
You mean the random guy who won't shut the fuck up?
The poem, the Dennis who's bad at poetry.
Dennis, the horrible poet, the failure in poetry class. Wow, good research, Christine.
I'm
hang on,
so
hang on.
sorry. That was so fucking long. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thanks, Sam.
I feel like, I mean, if the police are listening, which they're not,
LOL,
but-
they stopped a long time.
I feel like I should try to like vote in like a rule that like if there's a horrible person out there clearly doing things for notoriety, that you just name him something awful, like just something so obnoxious just to piss him off. Because
I will say, I believe that's more of a media angle you know? 'Cause
Oh, media, if you're listening. Media.
I think it's more the media that it picks up the name and then it like spreads, you know, because it's quote unquote catchy.
But like
Which is unfortunate.
I am very pro never naming an assailant, or because they want the notoriety and they don't
You
deserve
mean like
it.
nicknaming them or like
Nicknaming,
naming them
or even naming
nicknaming.
them. Like, I mean, if they're on the loose and you have to know what their name is, that's one thing. But
Right,
like,
sure.
especially like in the world of like all these damn school shootings and like they just want their
Oof.
name in the paper or something. Like,
Right.
I feel like you should just humble the shit out of them where you can.
Yeah.
Where you can't, you know, but especially like BTK, where he so clearly wanted his name, wanted a name. Just name him like the annoying guy, like just something just to put him in his place for a second. Like it's the only power we have. Just let us have that 1% of power.
And that's why that male clerk deserves a trophy.
Yes,
Putting his stupid poem in the classifieds.
a genius. Like, hang on a second, hang on.
Wow. That's to the male clerk. Props.
Yeah. Good job.
Respect.
Yes. Well done, Christine.
Sorry, that was like the length of an entire episode. I apologize. I know that this is a lot. So
that was very well. I think for something and someone so notorious, even though I don't want to give them that title, for someone with a lot of information out there that you had to weave through, I'm very proud of you. So
well,
did a
thank
good
you.
job.
That's very nice, and thank you for listening to this like 1.5 times or however this ended up working out. And Jack, we're gonna probably send you some beer for editing this because it's just like so much tech stuff happening, so much chaos. At one point, which I assume we cut out, my tummy just said, "Hey,
gotta
just
go.
jumping in, say my piece real quick." So it's just been a lot.
Or,
so I apologize.
as Jimmy Neutron would say, "Got a blast."
Got a blast, indeed. Not to completely steal that tagline, but hello. You just sent me into outer space with that one. So anyway, thanks everybody who, if this sounded even remotely clean or normal of an episode, like even cohesive at all, please thank Eva, Saoirse, Jack, mostly Jack for putting this all together. And I'm sorry, I'm acting like this is my like fucking tour. I don't know why I'm saying
this
all
is
this,
like your finale, your grand finale.
I feel like I'm just so thrilled to get this fucking asshole out of my head. So that's all.
Unfortunately for everybody else, you can't get him out of your head yet, because next week is the second half, which we've already recorded.
Part.
So,
and I've already done that research, so we're done on that. No more. I don't need to read about him again tonight. I'm done.
I'm so happy for your big brain fart you're gonna have later.
I can't wait.
Well, I guess we'll leave everybody perfectly uncomfy until next week. So,
Perfect.
And
that's
why
we
drink.